that's like the whole U.S. military back there, like, and your general of the whole U.S. military is a 1/1, like.
Yeah, because it's
Oh
not
yeah,
about any one person.
He's giving
Okay,
commands.
it's
Yeah.
about the team. They're a
He's
battalion.
as strong as Momo, like.
Well, Momo's
Yeah.
like a lemur, right? Like Momo's just a little dude.
I'm
And
not.
look at that mustache, Tim. That mustache is just aura.
You're right. That
is very cool.
That's where the first strike comes from.
Yep.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Jank Tank. My name is Timothy Zaccanino. I'm joined here with Teld and Danelius, and we've got a little bit of a different setup on screen today. Trial run. Let us know how it goes. Let us know how you feel about everything that you're seeing on screen, audio, all that stuff. Any changes you would like to see as well. This seems like it's very malleable, but we're going to try to upgrade the visual experience a little bit moving forward. Today, on the docket, we're starting a new series. We wrapped up our 3-drop creatures. We're going to move into the 1-drop creatures based off a little bit of feedback from some YouTube comments who said they weren't as interested in 4-drops. We might get around to that eventually, but we're going to go ahead and backtrack to 1-drops here and clear out the whole early part of the curve. As usual, if this is maybe your first time following us for one of these tier lists, we're going to start with some of the cards that are not available to us on Arena, which 3 cards, right? We're going to talk about the 3 most popular cards that are played in Peasant Cubes that do not show up on Arena. So I think we should go through those and then maybe talk a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the stuff that we're more familiar with. The tier listing is all going to be the same, S through D. I don't know if we've got a convenient place on screen to show you what those mean, or if Danelius, you want to go over those now or maybe after the housekeeping, but
we can bring it up in a bit, but I think this first card is funny because it's heavily played, and I think it's not particularly good.
Yeah, so Gideon's Lawkeeper. I don't know. Do I have to? I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be reading the cards anymore when they're on the screen, but I guess there will eventually be like audio only versions of this. So I'll still read the card for people who are maybe not like actively looking at the screen. So Gideon's Lawkeeper. That's white for a 1/1 human soldier. It has white tap target creature. So kind of like your traditional tapper. I think there might be some even like similar cards, some functional reprints of this. I'm not sure about that. What's the, just real quick, what's the like better version of this?
Law Runes Enforcer, I think.
Enforcer, yeah, the war card, right? Mm-hmm. So is Law Runes, do you remember, is Law Runes Enforcer played at the same clip as Gideon's Lawkeeper?
Similar, but a little bit less, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because Enforcer is a 1/2, and the difference between a 1/2 and a 1/1 in Modern Peasant is just massive, and the only Law Runes Enforcer also requires a colorless mana to activate, and Lawkeeper obviously needs white. The only advantage that Lawkeeper has is it can tap tokens and 1-mana creatures, because Law Runes Enforcer can only tap things that have mana value 2 or greater, but the vast majority of the time, those are going to be things that you want to tap anyways. I can't really see a reason why I'd ever run Lawkeeper over Enforcer. I think it's a D.
Well, I think this card falls under what I've kind of been referred to as people refusing to update their cubes since like 2016 or something. This is a core set menace. This card was really strong in core sets a million years ago, just because it was a relatively efficient way to like tap down big creatures, but we got better cards, guys. We can play them.
Yeah. I mean, these cards are still good and limited when they're printed exactly like this, but Tapper is something I don't feel like is necessarily missing from the Peasant Cube sphere, and the ones we have are fine. So Gideon's Lawkeeper I think is just mostly outclassed by the Law Rune Enforcer. Yep. Sorry to say that, people, but again, nostalgia pick. If you want to play your Gideon's Lawkeeper, go for it.
Sure.
Next up, Mardu Woe Reaper. This is white for a 2/1 human warrior. When Mardu Woe Reaper or another warrior enters the battlefield under your control, you may exile target creature card from a graveyard. If you do, you gain a life. So Savannah Lions with a little bit of life gain, a little bit of graveyard hate, probably better than or exactly the same as most Savannah Lions. that is something we should note right off the bat. Teld and I are lower on 1-mana 2/1s than Danelius, just in general. I personally think they're actively bad, unless the upside is something really strong. And for me, Woe Reader's upside is not really strong. It's fine. I think 1-mana 2/1s are actively just bad. Daenerys, I do not think that you're necessarily there. I think you still think they're necessary for aggro decks to function. I do not believe that personally. So there's going to be a little bit of disconnect on the way that we grade, Savannah Lions with upside.
Well, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Question for you guys: what year was Mardu Woe printed in?
2012,
2016,
yeah, I mean,
15.
definitely, I agree that Savannah Lions need juice to want to play with them, and I do not think gaining 1 life or maybe 2 life over the course of the game is the kind of juice I'm looking for on a Savannah Lion. So I would definitely call this a D. Talking briefly about Savannah Lions and why I think they still are relevant, I think there's a difference between saying you're playing a mid-range deck that leans assertive versus an aggro deck. What an aggro deck, the way that an aggro deck plays is it assumes it's playing from ahead and it's trying to end the game as fast as possible, mostly regardless of the matchup. And obviously, in Modern Peasant, so much can change in sideboarded games. So you can have your deck can function as an actual aggro deck game one, and then in post sideboard games, you can go bigger, you can become more of a mid range deck. But for an actual aggro deck, where the whole point is you're planning on being ahead and you're trying to end the game as fast as possible, I don't think you really are able to take that stance unless you're playing with some amount of cards like this. Though I don't think this is the one that I would choose. So that's my only argument, and I think. The play pattern of 1-drop into 2-drop into double spell on 3 with the 1-drop and a 2-drop is the way that aggro decks can actually win in Modern Peasant. So that's why I fundamentally I think you need some number of good Savannah Lines to support that strategy. This is not the Savannah Lines I would choose. I think it's a D. I think it's like a D-, honestly.
Yeah, I think Tim and I's stance would probably be that you need 1-drop, so we would agree with that. You need cards that let you spend your mana early, but they don't necessarily need to be things that get bricked on turn 2.
Fair enough.
They're just bad. Like they lose to everything. They lose to everything. They get blocked by everything. Like they're just bad. But that, again, like I'm not going to put every single Savannah Lions in D, but I am going to fight to put most of them in D. So, okay, the last non-arena card here is Benevolent Bodyguard. This is white for a 1/1 human cleric. You can sacrifice it. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. A couple similar cards. I'm assuming Selfless Savior will show up a little bit later on the list here as well. This one is not, to me, horrendous immediate D territory. It's not a terrible card. Sits on board, makes life annoying for your opponent, and protection is often going to be better than indestructible anyway, because you can push in a good attack at some point later in the game. So I like this card. I still don't think it's getting above C for me. Without some sort of like abiding grace recursion engine type thing going on. But I think this one's fine.
Yeah, I think this card, it's one of the better versions of this effect. I don't know exactly where I'd be willing to put it, but the fact that it's free and can be used the turn you play it means that it's an excellent card for protecting engines, and which we're getting more and more of every year because that's what they print as the best cards in retail sets. So playing this alongside something like Sarn and being able to just immediately hold up protection for it is going to win you a lot of games. I still don't think I would go too high on this because it is at the end of the day an onboard 1-for-1 that still dies to your usual suspects of cheap removal, like toughness based removal. But the fact is that all the other versions of this effect either don't give protection, which is more powerful than any of the other effects you can get, or they can't activate the turn you play them, or they cost mana. So like this is kind of the sweet spot of not needing any of those.
Yeah, and I think because of that, I'd be okay going as high as like B-, just because I just don't think it's clearly worse than the other options that we have that do a similar thing as this. I'm not sure that it's better either, but it has some upside. So C+ or B- is kind of where I'd land. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I'd lead C+ because I think you do want to have specific targets, whereas I think some of the other ones you could just like put in your deck and they'll be good. I think this, you need to have like a plan for what you're going to be protecting.
Doesn't protect you from Ghostfire Slice either.
That's true. That's true. Very important.
Yeah, super important. Okay, so that's the 3 most heavily played off arena cards. We will transition into the stuff that we're more familiar with now. There's been a little bit of reworking, again, based off of YouTube comments. So again, thanks to everybody who leaves the comments there. But I believe the plan now is to still have these based on popularity, but within the popularity categories, kind of group together cards with similar effects, which people had requested and what we were originally doing with some of the earlier tier lists. Before we get into those cards, I do also just want to plug the Jank Game in Discord. You can find us down below in the description wherever you're watching this. and let us know what you think of these cards and come join us for some Peasant Cubes yourself. You can also obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel for more tier lists like this. We've got tons and tons of tier lists planned for the near future. We'll be continuing the 3-drops, or not the 3-drops, the guild tier lists alongside of the 1-drops here. And then after that, we'll decide what we're getting into next. Do want to plug Danelius's Peasant All-Star Cube as well, which will be linked down below. It's an alternative to the Jank Gaming Discord. It has a lot of the same sensibilities, but it's a 540 cube, so it's got a lot more different things going on with it as well. It's also a very popular alternative to the JDG cube in the Discord as well, so we'll come play it here in our server as well. And speaking of JDG, do have to shout out that we did in fact get the JDG cube into CubeCon. Yep, it is in CubeCon this year. We will all be going. We'll be jamming. So if you are going to CubeCon, let us know, and we'd love to just meet some people who are fans of the whole JDG atmosphere, ecosystem, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, thanks to anyone who voted. I know we sent out like nonstop posts to people, and we were pinging people to go vote constantly. Like I got my mom to vote and everything. So yeah, thanks to everybody who contributed to that. And it's going to be really exciting to go hang out. We'll probably do some sort of follow-up, I imagine, to go into CubeCon and share our experiences, whether that's on a podcast or however we want to tier list the cubes that we end up playing.
And if you're at home wondering why it looks like I'm recording from a potato inside of a hotel room, it's because I'm recording from a potato inside of a hotel room where I'll be for the next week. Can't be in my apartment right now. They're having to do some massive work. There's a giant trench in my house. It's really cool.
Yeah, I would say please be patient with us as we make some iterations to the recording process here. If you have any feedback, we're all very interested in hearing it, but it might not end up being relevant. We might be very aware. It's just the kind of the place we find ourselves in at the moment. But we hope to have multiple improvements in the coming weeks, and hopefully also greatly reduced editing time. That's the goal here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll try to. I think so. I'm looking at myself on one view, but I don't think that's the view that's showing up on the thing. And I'm realizing like how scraggly my beard is going to be. Like, I'll try to shape up a little bit before future recordings.
I look particularly red. There's not much I can do about it. I mean, I'm kind of red in my normal day to day, anyways, but it's even redder than usual. So we got some kinks to iron out.
Yeah, I currently can't see Dan, but last time I saw him, it looked like he was in the middle of paranormal activity. He had like the blue screen going on.
Yeah, it'll improve over time.
Yeah, so let us know what you think of the setup. Obviously, the end game here is to provide a little bit better of a visual experience and hopefully audio experience as well. Though I don't think that part is gonna really shine through for this initial recording.
Yeah.
Before we jump back in, did you want to touch on the categories real quick, the tiers, for people who may be joining us for the first time?
Yeah, and actually one other thing I wanted to mention is one of the cool things about doing it this way is my plan is going to be to publish all of our tier lists, at least going forward, on a website. And for those of you who listen to the Limited Level Ups podcast, Alex recently announced a website that he's created that allows for a lot of community engagement around the stuff he's making, and I've hopes of pushing this all to a website myself, so everybody can kind of reference these tier lists themselves, maybe even vote on your own ratings as we go on. I think that would be fun. That is coming. It's won't be ready for at least a few weeks, but that's one of the cool things about this. In terms of the tiers themselves, we haven't listed out everything here, but S's for us mean just the most powerful or the most cubable cards. And most cubable here, we just mean cards that are going to add an enormous amount to the draft environment for your cube, even if they maybe aren't the most powerful cards ever printed. A's are going to be just the rock solid cards that we are going to recommend for basically any cube without really any restriction, but they're maybe just not quite the very most popular, powerful ones. B's are just your rock solid role players that you can kind of take or leave, but they don't really require a whole lot of building around. Usually they just tend to work, but they do kind of fill more of a role player niche. And then C's are your more narrow role players, your niche role players, the cards that do kind of need specific archetypes to work that most peasant cubes aren't necessarily going to be supporting, or they're just kind of weaker role players, cards that you're going to see more rarely in peasant cubes, but you could still run them sometimes. And then D's are cards we're basically suggesting there's not a great reason to run these cards unless you have a personal affinity for them, you're nostalgic for them, whatever. And obviously that's fine. If they bring joy for you, then go for it, but they're not cards that we would really ever consider for our cubes.
Mm-hmm. One of our background goals with recent tier lists is to be have a more positive outlook in general on things, but that does not mean that we're not going to grade cards that are D's as D's.
Yeah, we're
So,
still gonna give these.
okay, ready to jump back into this with speaking of D's, Thraben Inspector. You guys know this card. Like, I'm not even going to read it. Thraben Inspector is a D. It's fallen off. It's dropped off. It's terrible.
And that D,
actually.
of course, is for detective, but it doesn't have that type.
Yeah, yeah.
D's
Thraben
clues,
Inspector,
D's
and
clues.
I guess if you want to just jump to Novice Inspector right away, they're the same exact card. They're S tier. Again, this is going to, and you could make a power level argument here that these are S's, but in terms of like S being getting the most squeeze out of your cards and synergizing with everything else that's going on, like the inspectors just do it all. They are the one drops that Teld and I are like, yeah, these are the ones you want to be playing. They're value driven and they get you on board. They put an artifact on board. They put a token on board. They cost as little mana as possible. They just kind of cover all the bases and are basically never bad. You can put this in any white deck and it will function and do something for your deck.
Yeah, these I've referred to Thraben Inspector as the most cubable card of all time, and I think I'm willing to stand on that just in terms of the totality of cubes. These cards are playable everywhere from like Peasant Cube, Pauper Cube, all the way up to they used to be Vintage Cube playable. I don't know if they're still in there because the power creep there has gotten a little excessive. But these cards are just really flexible. You know, their ability to be able to spend your mana on turn one, but they also sort of act like, you know, if you've been playing the retail set cards like Hero in Training, Inspiring Overseer type cards, when you need them to be, these are the 3 mana draw card on ETB type cards. You know, you obviously pay a little bit of a premium on the stats, but just the overall package you get out of these cards is just incredible. They're not going to like move the needle in terms of being, you know, table flippers or anything, but they grease the wheels on everything your decks are doing, especially in Peasant where the artifact matters a ton.
Yeah, and just to be clear, not only are these cards better than like the Savannah Lions, they also have higher cube equity than the Savannah Lions because they just go in every deck. Yes, obviously, aggro decks will still happy to play these, but you're also even mid range grindy decks will play these. So these are just, you know, some of the best cards in Peasant. Period. I think slam dunk S pluses.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody who'd really argue against that and have like a super strong argument against it. But,
agreed.
Okay, the other honorary inspector here is Elite Interceptor. This is pretty new from Secrets of Strixhaven. It's white for a 1/2 human wizard. It enters prepared, and its prepared spell is Rejoinder, which is a sorcery that you can cast for 1 and a white that taps or untaps target creature, and you draw a card. You know, there's a little bit of debate once you get into more higher power stuff about whether this is better or worse than inspectors. I think when you're talking Peasant Cube, it's very clearly worse than the inspectors because you're not making an artifact, which matters. You're not making the token, and you're not even guaranteed to get the second half. Like, you could totally see someone just shocking this off on turn one, and then you never leave behind anything with the card. That said, I do like this card. It's still pretty fresh. I don't have a very strong opinion about it, but I would be leaning towards like B, I think, at the lowest on this. I think it's just really easy to have this be an inspector for aggressive decks that lets you push some damage. I'm not sure where you guys have landed on this. We haven't seen too much action.
Yeah. I think I'd be willing to go as high as low A just because, yes, this is worse than an inspector on most fronts. That being said, there are some cool things you can do with the spellcast. Like if you care about double spells, if you care about targeting your own creatures, sometimes you can push damage with this in a way that the Thraben Inspectors can never do. That being said, the reason I would put this at A ultimately is that we only have 3 of these on Arena. You know, maybe 4 to 5 if you really stretch. You know, you start pulling alchemy cards and stuff that are in this sort of 1 mana, really good value generation. And I think that there's kind of up to room for like 7 to 8 of these in a 360 potentially. You know, if we had like 7 Thraben Inspectors, we wouldn't play literally 7 Thraben Inspectors, but like we'd be willing to go pretty far down the depth chart before we run out of reasons to put Thraben
Monkey Paw is.
So I think this card, just in terms of cube equity, this template is so good that I would still be willing to put this in A, even though it's clearly worse than the 2.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an A, and I think part of it is like it's like a cube equity A because while it is worse than the inspectors, I think that there's something a little bit lame about just playing Thraben and Novice Inspector, which are just the exact same card. And if you
They
you
have
want to
different
play
creature types.
what's that? Yeah, that's true. But being able to play a card that is like very much in the same vein, though yes, while slightly worse, but like actually a different card, I think is kind of valuable and important. So I think it's like a slam dunk A, even though yes, it is definitely worse. And I think it's honestly, I wouldn't be that opposed to calling it White's second best 2-drop that isn't like Mother of Runes. We'll get to that later, but or second best 1-drop. I think it is still very strong, even though yes, it is clearly worse than the Inspectors. And there's a slight extra synergy involved here, especially if you're playing in a Spellslinger environment or a heroic environment, though those probably would overlap. This can have slightly more juice at times than the Interceptors, and it doesn't, create token management bloat for your paper environment. So I think this card is fantastic and a slam dunk A to me.
Okay, happy to give it A. And I will say sometimes actively significantly better than an Inspector, dependent on board state.
I think when you get into higher level environments, obviously this is a peasant tier list, but I think there's an argument that this card might be better than Thraben Inspector in those more powerful environments.
I think it is. But it's still new enough that I'm not willing to like put a definitive stamp on that yet.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Descendant of Storms is white for a 2/1 human soldier. Whenever this creature attacks, you may pay 1 in a white. If you do, it endures 1, which means you can either put a +1/+1 counter on it, or you can make a 1/1 spirit token. That is a non-flying spirit token. Just FYI, just a ground duder. Big deal when this was spoiled. I don't really know how it's panned out. I think it's a solid Savannah Lions. I think it mostly pushed out, what was it, Usher of the Fallen, which I still see a lot. Is Usher's going to show up here, right?
But this is the most played Savannah Lions in Peasant Cubes at the moment.
This is based on our tier list here. This would be like one of the most played one.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Where are you guys at on this? I think this is fine. Like, if you want to play Savannah Lions, I think this is a solid 1-drop. Was never impressed by it outside of TDM limited, but I think it's totally serviceable.
I like this one more and more, actually, the more I played with it. I was not super high on it. I didn't think it was like a huge improvement on Usher. And I no longer really feel it. I mean, it's a decent enough improvement on Usher. And I'll tell you, I played a Wide Aggro deck last night. It was a go wide deck, but I played against 2 control decks essentially, and then like a deck that could play a more attrition-y role that was a mid-range deck, and I would have killed for Descendant in that deck, because so often I was just like a little bit light on threats, and just being able to put more power and toughness into play I think would have been really useful. So I don't have a big problem calling this the best Savannah Lions. I think it's close to it, if not. That to me still, it's somewhere in the B range is how I'd put it, maybe like low B. But yeah, it's still a very solid card, and I think very cubable. It maybe could get up to A. Honestly, I just can't imagine many cubes that wouldn't be happy running like a single, 1 or 2 or 3 Savannah Lions, and this is probably the best one. Though there could be an argument for it.
I'm pretty unhappy when I have to put Savannah Lions in my cube / deck.
There you go.
I've seen this one to be okay. Just the biggest reason is that this gets around the biggest Savannah Lion problem, which is getting bricked by 1/1. As soon as your opponent puts a 1 toughness blocker in front of most Savannah Lions, the card doesn't exist anymore for a while. This one being able to pump itself up to a 3/2 is relevant. That being said, I mean, if your opponent does that on turn 2, for example, you're really happy. And later into the game, it's going to be harder and harder to squeeze this in and get any real value out of it. That being said, this is one of the better Savannah Lions. I'm fine putting this in B. I think it's a fine role player for aggro decks. Like, I'm never going to be surprised to see it in the cube, but I'm also not excited to play it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Wraps it up pretty nicely. Which brings us to another Savannah Lions here with Recruitment Officer. This is ostensibly a white 2/1 with no ability, as far as I'm concerned. But you could theoretically pay 3 in a white to look at the top 4 of your library and reveal a creature with mana value 3 or less to put into your hand.
It's just 1 mana Water Tribe Rally. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I've seen this card brick too many times. I think I've seen this card brick more than I've seen it hit.
It can brick. I mean, like I'm assuming when I activate this that I get something, but maybe I shouldn't make that assumption. It's just 4 mana to draw a card is agree. Like it's so much. It's so much.
This card has no text on it. This card is a 1 mana 2/1 with no text.
If you're running this card, I think it's because you're pairing it with you want more outs for Omen Hawker to be playable. That's the idea.
Sure. I mean, yeah, sure.
Oh.
I mean, I still don't think it's egregious. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like on the Savannah Lions tier list where I'd put this. I think I would have it below Usher. I'd have it below Descendant. I'd have it below actually a number of the ones we're going to talk about. That might even get it down to D for me, but I think like maybe C minus. There could be an argument for.
Absolutely,
but I think it's
no.
hard to
get out
Yeah,
of here with
okay.
that. If I was grading this, Dan, it would be an F tier. This card would not
okay,
even
wow,
be
there you go.
discussed.
All right.
Probably better than Mardu Woe Reaper, but I don't know.
Well, then, hey, that's a hot take for the Peasant community because this is like the 5th most played card, white 1-drop in Peasant currently. So.
I do. I mean, I would ask people if you're playing this card, how often.
I mean, I played it for a long time. I played it for a long time, and I didn't hate it. It's just that, like, once we started getting more powerful 2-drops or 1-drops, it's like this, very quickly was taken out. It wasn't often activated for sure.
I will say one other thing you need to keep in mind when you're playing this card is that increasingly we've got cards like Carrot Cake, Citizen's Crowbar, Dragoon's Lance that are really good cards in your deck that this is going to brick on, which is true. The same is true of cards like Watershop Rallier, but that card also just has a completely different play pattern.
Also, Watershop can pick up your Starfield Shepherd, and it can fit. It's like there's more expensive cards that can pick up that this can never pick up. And I think the other thing to note about both of the cards you mentioned, Carrot Cake and Dragoon's Lance, is they give you things to do with your mana. So it's like you just don't need this huge mana sink in Modern Peasant anymore because so many cards give you things to do.
Yeah. Sorry, Recruitment Officer. Cool card when it came out, but that was 2023 or something like that at this point. No, earlier than that. Okay, there's Usher of the Fallen next. So this is white for a 2/1 Spirit Warrior. It has Boast, so if it's attacked this turn, you can activate its ability for 1 in a white to create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. Big deal when it came out. Big deal when it came out. I think it's largely outclassed by other Savannah Lions, which is not saying a lot when I'm so low on Savannah Lions already. This one doesn't like it's just clearly worse than Descendant of Storms, right?
I would say most of the time, but I will say there is one small advantage here is that you don't have to do the trigger when you attack with it. You can wait and see what your opponent's going to do. You can wait and see, how things play out and then choose to activate it, which is a nice upside there. That being said, if I saw this in Modern Peasant cubes, I would be a little confused.
Yeah, I don't know about confused, but I feel like I prefer Descendant, and there's enough variation and interesting 1-drops that I just don't see a reason to run a near functional reprint, even if there is some differences here. So, but we gave Descendant a B. I don't think this is that much worse than Descendant, if worse at all. So I mean, I would just give this a C. I think it's fine, but not necessary. But if
I would argue this is significantly worse than Descendant, but
just because it can't put the counter on itself.
Well, I think most of the time when I see Descendant trigger, it makes the counter. Like I feel like majority of the time when I've seen that card go off, it's because of the counter. It's letting it.
Yeah, like Teld outlined a difference there with the token making, but ultimately, like that, it's kind of minor that is the difference. It doesn't matter that much that you can do the token later in the turn than right away. It does matter sometimes, but not mostly enough. So I mostly just see this as a similar card with less optionality, and the optionality on Descendant to be able to push past 3 toughness creatures or whatever is very relevant. So I think this is like very clearly worse than Descendant.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I would argue is that a lot of while it might be clearly worse than Descendant, it's still, I think the play patterns are going to be pretty similar often. I disagree with the notion that you're always putting the counter on. Again, given the fact that you have Rosy Cotton, you have Neighborhood Guardian, you have Lita, you have all these reasons to want to make a creature in general with white already, that I think there is a really good case to often be using that ability if you're activating the ability at all. Sorry, using the ability to make a token if you're using the ability at all.
The big difference here, Dan, I think, for what I've seen is that Descendant can put the counter on itself to let itself attack not only that turn, but potentially future turns.
Yeah.
Usher, this is basically Usher is spending 2 mana to get a 1/1 token. And at that point, you might as well just put Doomed Traveler in your deck.
Yeah, but again, that's then ignoring the play pattern of 1-drop into 2-drop into double spell on 3 when you're on the play, which is like the main way that white aggro decks win. So there's going to be because we have 5 more Savannah Lions to talk about, we're just going to disagree about the value of Savannah Lions, and unfortunately I'm outvoted 2-1 here, so I would definitely give this a C. I don't think there's not much doubt in my mind about it, but it seems like you guys want to put it a D, so that's fine.
I'm fine putting it in like C- if that's just because fine. I know a bunch of the rest of these Savannah Lions are going straight into D tier. So
all right, bottom of C.
Okay, no, Dominaria card. Dominaria card. Never a good sign, unfortunately. Dauntless Bodyguard, white for a 2/1 human knight. When it enters, choose another creature you control. I'm sorry, as it enters. That's actually a relevant distinction. You can sacrifice Dauntless Bodyguard. The chosen creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Played this for a long time. Again, this was in an era where Savannah Lions weren't regularly printed at the same clip that they are now. Big downside to this card is that it loses its functionality if you play it. If you play it on turn one, it has
There's
no
nothing at all, yeah.
functionality.
Yeah.
So it ends up just being Savannah Lions. Though I guess if you follow up another creature, it's got a little bit of utility to it that matters. But the
Also, just
sequencing on this is just not great.
so much of
unfortunately.
removal in Peasant these days just gets around indestructibility anyways. Like, blue
Yeah.
doesn't care about indestructibility at all. Like, a lot of black cards don't care about indestructibility. A lot of white cards don't care about indestructibility. It's just, I don't see the utility here as being particularly high.
Yeah, there's also like 4 cards that are better than this that do similar things. And granted, most of those have 1 power, but the second point of power is not worth what you
agree.
give up on the flexibility here.
Yep, I agree.
Would your mind change at all on this card if you could like reselect the target to creatures coming in after it?
Yes. I think it would be at least playable then. To be clear, I played with this for a long time. Like, this is not I have to imagine how this plays out. I played with it. I'm a white aggro player at heart, so I played this card a lot. And the amount of times that ability has been relevant is, I can count on one hand for sure. It's not a particularly relevant ability.
Yeah, because I mean, this came out 2018 Dominaria, and then I think Usher of the Fallen was like the next Savannah Lions that came out in what 2021 or something like that. Like there were years where it was like, oh wow, they're bringing Savannah Lions back, but it's this.
Yeah, I think if you could do this on the after you put it into play, like if you could just pick another creature, that'd be really strong. Because then you'd have stuff like Lita and Neighborhood Guardian that would be worth actually protecting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Cheeky House Mouse up next. This is another Savannah Lions. It's white for a 2/1 with no ability, but it does have an adventure. Squeak by. You can pay white. It's a sorcery. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater until end of turn.
This card paints a really horrifying picture for the mice on Eldraine.
No, I never seen this picture this expanded on my screen before. Yeah, you're right.
The little witch in the background. Yeah,
I meant more that these are mice that can kill a grizzly bear.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
This one's fine. This one's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I played this one also for a long time. I think it might even still be in the queue, but it's always like right on the edge of getting cut. But like the fact that you can play this with your mouse, there being a little bit of synergy there. Maybe you're playing some not a heroic package, but like a couple of cards that care about targeting. And there's been a lot of those printed in the last year. So I think this is just kind of like a middle of the road C. It's like if you have some targeting effects in your cube, this card seems totally fine to me.
Yeah, it's a really good way to enable Clarion Spirit type stuff too, just on its own, 2 mana. I don't think this card is good, but I think the biggest advantage this card has is just both effects cost 1 mana, and it's like we'll find something to do with those.
Yeah, but never feels great to me when I'm playing with it. I don't feel I'm getting away with anything.
No, it's got the same problem as the Bodyguard, where if you run it out on one, you lose the utility that you put it in your cube for in the first place, which is a little awkward. But all right, next up we've got Leonardo, leader in blue. This is a Savannah Lions with a lot of text on it. It's white for a 2/1 legendary mutant ninja turtle. It has sneak for 3 white. So if you have an unblocked attacker, you can return that unblocked attacker to your hand. Sorry, I should just read what sneak does. You may cast this spell for 3 white if you also return an unblocked attacker you control to hand during the declare blocker step, and then Leonardo enters tapped and attacking. When Leonardo enters, if the sneak cost was paid, creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. And Leonardo also has an activated ability of 1 and a white to gain first strike until end of turn. So 1 mana 2/1 Savannah Lions that can gain first strike does help it push past X1 some amount of the time, or 1 power creature some amount of the time. And then in the late game, you could theoretically sneak this in to have like an on the job trumpet blast style effect. One of the jokes here from the original set was that you could play this early, sneak it back to your hand with something else later on, and then have this available to sneak in on a later turn. You lose a lot of that when you transfer it over to cube. But again, this is a Savannah Lions I'm not like embarrassed to play. It has a lot of text on it. That's usually a good sign for a 1 mana creature.
Yeah, I haven't seen the sneak on this come up, but like obviously there's something there. If you're able to get it to go off, it's going to be very powerful. I actually think the first strike on here though ends up being kind of relevant. I've only played this card one time, so like super small sample size, but in the deck I played it in, every time I played it and attacked on 2, even if my opponent had a blocker, they never wanted to put the blocker in front and tax me 2 mana. And so it almost always got in for like 2, 4, 6 damage just because your opponent doesn't want to put something in front of this. And if you ever put a +1 counter or something on it, you get a piece of equipment like a 1/1 flashlight, buff could be really relevant. And then you give it first strike, it's going to attack past a lot. So like it's kind of fake because it's expensive, but then opponents will just like play themselves by not just putting something in front of and taxing your mana every turn. So it actually played out reasonably well, but I never did get even close to sneaking it.
Yeah, it is funny that the first strike ability is almost certainly more relevant than the sneak ability. But I have won a couple games off the sneak ability. It's always tough in those games because usually that means you were able to make a big attack where you had some unblocked creatures, and so it's like you're probably doing pretty well in that scenario anyways. But it's nice. It's a nice little upside. But I agree, the first strike definitely matters, and there's plenty of cards, again, Rosie and whatever else, that are able to grow your creatures in the early game that then makes that first strike ability particularly relevant. So I think this is, of the cards that are non-value oriented Savannah Lions, this one might just be the best. That still puts it for me as like a low B, something like B minus.
Yeah. I think the thing that strikes me, the sneak ability is probably going to be at its best in like blue-white flyers, which you've mentioned is kind of a good little package. If you curve like a battle screech into attack with this and bounce a flyer and give all your flyers like +2/+0, that's probably going to win you the game.
Mm-hmm. And legendary ends up mattering more and more.
Frodo was awesome last night. Frodo continues to be great. Yeah.
Frodo's been eating elephants like left and right. Frodo's crazy.
Frodo ate my Rosie last night. I was really sad.
As he did.
Frodo doesn't need anyone to carry him to Mordor. He gets right. himself there.
Yeah, in Tolkien, that happened, right?
Yep.
All right, Wonderbrine Trapper. This is white for a 2/1 Merfolk Scout. You can pay 1, tap it, and tap another untapped creature you control to tap target creature an opponent controls. We did not bite the bullet on actually playing this card in JDG Cube, but I know it's in the Peasant All-Star Cube. So maybe, Danilius, you've got more of an opinion on this.
Yeah, I think this one's been fine. I've seen it played a couple times. It's always been played in like a blue-white flyer sort of a shell when I've seen it, which makes sense. Like it comes down early, you get a couple attacks in, and then you're just trying to play a tempo game and win relatively quickly. And as your ground things maybe get brick walled, you can kind of leverage those to tapping. The thing I actually really like about this card is Captain America, and I have added Captain America to my cube, and I think that this is like an exciting card to pair with Captain America potentially, because now you're able to use it both on offense. You can use it potentially to get blockers out of the way and then still attack with your creatures, or you can potentially get multiple taps in with this. So I do like this card a fair amount. Again, I don't think that can get it above kind of like the B- range in my mind, somewhere in the B- range, because it is still a Savannah Lions that can't give you value of any kind. And while I am higher on these effects than y'all, I still don't think they're amazing.
Yeah, I got to play with the RAF security officer in the retail set, and assuming this plays out sort of similar to that, the double tap thing is kind of cracked, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last pick, JDG, last pick, Captain America, unfortunately.
I don't think I'm willing to go as high as B on this. I think this is a C-level card personally, but I do think it's decent. I think the C being that you've got to have, like you mentioned, Captain America is the niche that this card needs.
I would agree with that. Again, okay. I don't think tappers are excellent cards in general in Peasant Cube, and if you're not tapping, it's just Savannah Lines. Like that's kind of story with a lot of these Savannah Lines. You need to be doing the thing that's written on the card.
Owen Hawker into Wonderbrine Trapper into Captain America. Like, how can you lose?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a ritual at that point,
yeah,
right?
Basically,
like, a ritual that
we played 1 mana Thran Dynamo at that point.
Exactly.
I do like this card. I would like an excuse to play it, and maybe Captain America. We did add Grand. I mean, maybe there's enough of an excuse there to.
That's the thing this card does is it enables your other tip tap synergies. But again, that lane hasn't quite been fully developed yet. But
this is like Dan, you've mentioned a couple of times. This is one of those cards that feels like it's waiting for its home to really develop, and they've been doing that for the last couple of sets. And I could see this coming up to be if like we have real synergies for wanting to tap things, and that's an upside instead of a downside. Then obviously this card gets much better.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we've got Sky Marcher Aspirant. That's white for a 2/1 vampire soldier. It has Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the game. And the Aspirant has flying as long as you have the city's blessing. So Savannah Lions, that eventually gets flying. Um, just minor note here, Ascend is actually pretty easy to get to
Super
in
easy.
Peasant Cube.
Super, especially in white. White is the easiest color to enable this in.
I would be willing to bet there was a point where this was a top 3 played Peasant Cube card. It feels like when this card came out, it was like one of those eye raisers of like, oh, my Savannah Lions can fly. That is a huge upside when you're attacking.
Still kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, among Savannah Lions, like giving flying in the mid game is a big upgrade.
I keep taking this card out to try newer, more interesting Savannah Lions, and this one, it always keeps coming back to the list because it's just like, I always feel bad when I see another card and it's not this one. I think this is like up there with Leonardo in terms of best Savannah Lions. It's not exactly a Savannah Lions. It's more like, it's a flyer. It's so often a flyer. It's very, very easy for this to be just a 1-mana 2/1 flyer. So I'd probably shoot for something just like straight down the middle B with this, honestly.
Yeah, because one thing to remember too is this card actually scales up as time goes on, and the reason for that, if you haven't been playing Modern Peasant Cube, is you go something like this on turn 1, then turn 2 you play Dragoon Lance, you just put 2 more permanents into play. Now you've got 5 permanents on turn 2. Turn 3 you play a hop to it. Now you're at 9 permanents. Next turn you play your land and you're there.
Yep.
That's obviously a bit of a Magic Christmas land, but scenarios like that, getting this flying by like turn 4, which is around the time your Savannah Lions is definitely going to be falling off anyways. A lot of times you can get through with it on 2 turns. So this gets flying right around the time it needs to get flying, which is a pretty big deal.
And often you top deck it as a flyer, which is nice. Maybe maybe B is a little bit hot because I definitely have played it before where it isn't a flyer and it's like it feels quite bad. So it's like
I feel like this is like B-.
Yeah,
like I don't think this is a niche card. I think if you want a card that is good at attacking, this is one of the best. It's just, do you really want? Is that something that's a good cube equity argument? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I like this division of the B level Savannah Lions versus the C level ones here.
Sure.
Like, definitely looks right to me. S tier Savannah Lions. Veteran Survivor. This is white for a 2/1 human survivor. It has survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Veteran Survivor is tapped, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. As long as there are 3 or more cards exiled with Veteran Survivor, it gets +3/+3 and has hexproof.
That second line does not. That second line text does not exist.
That's a 1-mana 5/4.
You just got to cast 2 time walks. Come on, what's the problem?
That's this is the type of card you would lose to in 1 out of 10 games, and then it does nothing in the other 9. And the games where this is doing its thing are the games where your opponent was mana screwed and couldn't block a 2/1 at any point anyway.
Yeah, the one upside here is if you're playing vehicles, if you're playing these tippy tappy things,
yeah, sure,
and you can manually tap it. I do think there's something here. I think obviously this card's pretty good if you can get it going. The problem is that unlike the Sky Marcher Aspirant where you top deck it in the mid game and it just immediately does the thing, you top deck this in the mid game and it's at its worst. Like this is the Savannah Lions. You need to get down early and have the enablers to get it over the finish line.
Plus you can't cheat with this. It's maxed once per turn that you get the card from this. It's like that's what I mean when I said time. Well, you need to cast like 2 time walks because otherwise it's just so slow. And it's like kind of interaction, but like this is the weakest interaction. I don't know. Even if we get a tip tap lane, I'm still not sure that I'm going to be interested in this.
Yeah, there's not even ways to like proliferate cheating, right? You can't even like live the dream of trying to do something like that.
You also, there has to be cards in the graveyard too. So like you play this on 1, your opponent plays a tap lane, you don't get anything off the first attack. Like this card's pretty bad. There is maybe a dream here. You'd have to be playing like Springleaf Drum style like stuff in your cube to really justify it. Survival was just like a complete miss from Duskborn. So I'm willing to say that's the case for cube as well. Hot Shot Mechanic. This is white for a 2/1 artifact creature. It's a fox pilot and it can crew vehicles as though its power were 2.
So it has no text box. It has no text box.
No, you can fire up the Quinjet.
So here's the question. If a 2-mana 3/3 artifact creature, legendary creature, I think we gave like a low B to or a high C. Is there any world where this, just because it's an artifact, is a C, or is it just straight D?
No, if this were a 2/2, like maybe I would be. We could talk about it. If it was Isamaru as an artifact, like we could be talking about it. But no. It's a 2/1 with no text. I mean, it has artifacts, but that's not enough to carry it.
I think that's probably right.
I don't think so. Did Core Homunculus show up at all in these lists? Because I would rather play Core Homunculus than Hotshot Mechanic. I
Honestly,
think.
that makes sense to me. Yeah, this one's tough. I think you got to be on like an affinity cube or whatever for
Yeah.
this.
This feels like it's like bottom of barrel, worst of worst. Like this might be worse than the Mardu Woe Reaper. At least that card has text.
Yeah.
Can we redacted cube this card in some way to make it like insane? Is there
This well, if it said cruise vehicles or stations spacecraft, maybe because we're about to get a spacecraft set, maybe there could be something there, but nah.
Okay.
Not
Yeah,
so much.
this one's a bit of a bummer. I wish the text box was real text, and then I'd be interested for sure.
Agreed.
All right, let's talk about the goat.
Oh baby. Okay, so we're out of Savannah Alliance territory, and it looks like we're moving into just like cheap one mana flyers, perhaps. Nurturing Pixie is white for a 1/1 fairy rogue with flying. When it enters, return up to one target non-fairy, non-land permanent to its owner's hand. You control to its owner's hand. If a permanent was returned this way, put a +1/+1 counter on Nurturing Pixie. Teld, this is your invitational card.
Right,
you even got your own likeness on the little cactus baby there. So
Yeah, outside of the Mother of Runes, which is a early Magic design mistake, this is like the best one drop ever printed for Peasant. I mean, this card is incredible. This is a 2/2 flyer for 1 mana that gives you card advantage. This card is ridiculous. It's so good. You can tutor it now too. This card's great. Yeah, this is like top of the top, S tier,
So here's the question.
S+ tier, whatever.
I don't have a way currently with the website to reorder things once they're within a particular plus or minus or whatever. So
This is going to end up being number 2. There is obviously Mother of Runes that's like completely broken in half. That's probably going to be number 1.
But pack one, pick one. Are you taking this over the inspectors? I know you are, Teld.
Yeah.
I'm saying the average peasant cuber you should take this over the inspectors. Pack one, pick one.
You should take this pack one, pick one. This is like one of the most powerful. This card is so powerful for 1 mana.
So I think if that's the case, then we knock down the inspectors to just regular old. To regular old.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, we put it like S- tier. There we go. That way Pixie's up at the top.
Yeah.
There we go.
Best card.
it feels wrong, but I think you're right. It feels wrong, but
I think he's probably right. I think it's certainly more interesting to draft decks with Pixie when you're taking Pixie over the inspectors. I'm not confident that it's better, but it leads to more busted play patterns for sure. I think the inspectors are probably in the average deck more often going to do their thing, but their thing is just less powerful. So
I think if you just draft towards once you have the Pixie, you just draft towards the Pixie, and like you'll find a way. Like it just generates so much tempo and advantage. Like you create the most ridiculous turns with this card.
Yeah, and I think when we did our tier listing of Skyfisher effects, I think I argued for this being like a tier below the best Skyfishers, and I don't think that anymore. I think it's just a 1 mana. One mana just means so much in my environment and y'all's. It's just very important.
I also think the continual printing of like 2 mana ETB artifacts, and specifically the printing of Starfield Shepherd is actually what got it. Currently, it's not in the JDG cube. It probably will by CubeCon. I think I'm going to talk Tim into getting it back in there, or at least attempt to. But currently, it's not in the JDG cube because White was winning at too high of a clip. I went on a pretty hot run with this in Glimmer Light for a while. But the printing of Starfield Shepherd was like a huge deal because now you have essentially 2 copies of this card in your deck, and then at that point it's just super consistent to get the busted draws.
Yep. And it's just a combo with Starfield Shepherd. Like,
that's true too.
It just picks the Shepherd back up to do it again. That's sweet.
Yeah.
It
just feels like every other set we get some sort of new card that's just completely ridiculous with this card. It's like it's the kind of card that's going to keep scaling up in power as Peasant moves on.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, a card that was bad in its retail limited format.
Skyfishers in general are not nearly as good in retail because there's just not going to be as many targets. So like there are some environment considerations with all Skyfishers. In our environments, we've made those considerations. We've made sure that these are good cards. But I can imagine there are Peasant cubes where this won't perform nearly as well as it does in ours. So just something to think about. But we would encourage you to move in that direction if you're not there.
Well, it's not just the lack of good targets. One thing to remember is that if your environment looks more like OTJ, where you're playing these big splashy like table flippy cards, right? And the example in Peasant I would give would be like Snarl Song. If your cube is somehow revolves around cards like Snarl Song, like we get more of those, and suddenly the granular advantage that Pixie gives is just not enough, it's going to feel worse. Like obviously it's still going to be a good card because there's a lot more cheap cards in Peasant. But the thing that held us back in OTJ was the fact that you could grind all the little half card trades, little tempo trades you wanted, but then your opponent plays Bonnie Paul and nothing mattered.
Though I will say, I'm strongly considering, if not guaranteed, to bring in Hopeless Nightmare in this month's update. And that Hopeless Nightmare Pixie is one way for those kinds of decks to fight against the Snarl
Oh, dude.
style deck.
Yeah,
too,
Hopeless Nightmare is a card I love playing, and man, with like Shi'ar Soldier and Nurturing
That's
Pixie.
what I'm thinking. Yep.
Yeah.
I thought Danielius was about to say he was going to put Bonnie Paul in.
I'm thinking about it.
Love that
Just going to try out Bonnie Paul.
Try it.
Simic's hurting real bad, folks. Like, all right, let's move on to
put that on the dock, Tim. Bonnie Paul and
Bonnie Paul. Yeah, you think they'll invite us back to CubeCon if we put Bonnie Paul in? Momo Playful Pet. This is white for a 1/1 legendary lemur bat ally with flying, vigilance, and when Momo leaves the battlefield, you choose one. Create a food token, scry 2, or put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Kind of unimpressed by this card.
Yeah,
really.
I
love that. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a fine card. I just don't think it's been as good as I assumed it would be reading the text box, because leaves the battlefield is way worse than enters the battlefield.
Fascinating. I've had the opposite experience. Every single time I see it, I just come up and up and up, and it just gets more and more annoying. Last night, I had Starfield Shepherd in my deck along with multiple Inspectors, and multiple times I cast Shepherd and got this instead of the Inspectors because I just wanted more flying in play, and I needed to be more resilient to removal because I was playing against these heavy removal black decks. And this card is just such a nice card. They, you put a counter on this, and they feel like they got to deal with it. It's got vigilance. It's going to block well, and then when they deal with it, scry 2 or add a creature to your other flyer. It's like I've been quite impressed with this card. I was going to fight for this as like high B level card minimum.
I was going to say B range.
High B range is where I would put it. It's just when I read this card, Dan, I would have assumed that this was like an A level.
Oh yeah, I mean, ultimately it is still just a flying man. There are situations where it's going to be quite irrelevant, but I just feel like, and especially now that we have the whole package of cards around like Shi'ar Soldier and Justice, where picking this up with your Pixie becomes like an actual really relevant thing to do. It's almost like a value pot in and of itself, while also being this flyer that really likes to get equipment put on it, or counters put on it, or auras or whatever else. Legendary creature for Frodo, that matters to you. I've been quite impressed with the card.
Yeah, I think we've currently got this out of the JDG cube. I'd have to double check, but I can see it coming back.
Like, I played it last night. It was there. I played it last night.
Okay, I couldn't remember if we cut it or not. It was on we had talked about it. Yeah, it's a fine card. It is a card that I do like because it's good with specifically Daydream, which is a card I've been really fascinated by lately as like a value card. So I do like, especially it's good with Daydream because now you're putting like actual attacking stats in your Daydream deck, which is where you want to be.
Yeah, this to me just seems like a solid mid-range white 1-drop. It's like I'll play this in my aggro decks for sure, but I'll also play it in my decks that are looking to go a little longer and play a value game with Pixies and the like.
Yeah, I think I would be willing to go B plus on this. I just, like I said, I would have thought it was like an A- when I read it. It just reads really, really powerful because there's so much lines of text on it.
Yeah,
B makes sense to me for sure. Brickwalled by Goliath, mass manipulator.
And it got brickwalled last night. Yes, Goliath was strong against me.
Maybe Legend Weapon.
Mandibular Kite, white for this isn't a creature. White for an equipment with living weapon, so it creates its own 0/0 germ when it enters the battlefield and then attaches itself to that germ. The equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, and the equip cost is 3 and a white, 4 mana to re-equip. Modern Horizons 3 card. What y'all think?
Pretty good.
One of the best white ones. I mean, I think just beneath for me in terms of pick orders as a white assertive player. It's just beneath the S tier stuff for me. I would say it's definitely an A.
Yeah, I could see that. It comes in and out of the Jank Diver cube, but part of that is just like we kind of modulate based on how we feel like the assertive, like flyy sort of things are coming in and out. I'd say this is probably like A- tier, but like I think this is it's the equipment's really good. It works with a lot of really powerful effects. We've mentioned in a number of episodes stuff like Kutzel that care about being modified. We've mentioned things like Builder's Talent that care about you putting equipment.
It's 2 objects for 1 mana. There's not many 2 object for 1 mana cards.
Yeah, I don't think the output on this card is crazy, but the fact that it's so cheap just means that it is really flexible as a game object specifically.
And to be clear, when I say I take it very highly as a white assertive player, the reason why is because it goes in so many spaces. It's an artifact. It makes a token. It's 2 objects. It has some of the stuff that the Inspectors have. What it obviously doesn't have is it doesn't draw a card. That's a huge deal, but it makes up for that in the sense that late game, similar to Dragoon's Lance, it just becomes a card that helps you in the game. Whereas a lot of these value creatures don't do that. So I love the card.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. It ends up like being one of those taunt cards that we swap out when we're trying to test something new, and then eventually makes its way back in the cube because there's a number of players who we have who really like it, myself included. I really like playing these like low to the ground game objecty assertive mid range decks. They're my absolute favorite thing to play in Peasant, and this is one of the good hits for those sort of decks.
Yeah, I give it a cube equity A. I think I'm fine with that. I think this is just an extremely overrated card on power level, and I thought that in the limited format as well. But it does have a lot of utility beyond just like what's written on the card. So
Oh yeah, no, I'll agree. If you're just putting this card in your deck and you're planning on playing it as a 1 mana 1/1 flyer, like
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
not that good.
Yeah,
like you
whatever.
need to be looking to synergize with it. Yeah.
yeah. All right, next up we've got to ruin a lurker bat. This is white for a 1/1, another bat. It has flying and lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, scry 1, and descended means a permanent card was put into your graveyard from anywhere. It does not count tokens, but descending does happen pretty regularly.
So this is like the flip side of Momo for me, where I kind of thought this card was going to only be okay, and I've been incredibly impressed with this card. I think this card's been really, really good. The lifelink Healer's Hawk function on it lets you chip in damage and win races. The descend triggers way more often than I assumed it would. It triggers like not necessarily every turn, but it triggers a lot. Particularly, if you got landscapes and stuff, like it carries buffs well. It's a great target for Mechicos and all that sort of stuff. Really like this card. It's been a nice addition when you're trying to be assertive.
Yeah, when the cards survive, this is like clearly a better card than Momo. The reason why I like Momo probably a little bit more
Get a little
than this
value
card
away.
is that card, yeah, it gives you some protection when it dies, and these cards, these 1/1s die all the time. They just they die to a sneeze, and so I agree with you. I was more impressed with this card than when it first came out. Seeing it played out, it does often descend. A permanent put into your graveyard from anywhere is not that hard. I was getting my cards counterspelled last night, and I had this in my deck too, and I was still getting to descend, so that was nice.
Nice.
This really does want you to be playing with cards like Rosie or Michiko's or whatever to boost its power. That is a huge function, important piece of this card. I think I still like Momo better just because cards die just all the time. Like if you were playing the assertive side of a matchup, your opponent stops you by killing your stuff. These cards die, and when this dies, it gives you nothing. When Momo dies, at least it gives you something relevant, like Scry 2
Yeah.
or a counter. Like these are relevant things.
I would have them very close.
I agree.
Well, this is again me saying that I think this card has just been better than it read to me, and
Yeah.
Momo was a little bit worse, and so they end up being roughly the same. But one thing I do want to take a mention is in previous episodes we have trashed cards for being having 1 toughness. That is something that we harp on a ton, and we haven't really talked about it in this episode. And I just wanted to point out if it hasn't, if you've been wondering why all these 1 toughness cards have been getting a pass, it's because 1 mana is not very many mana.
Yes, however, I will say last night I'm playing against Flutter, Cube Goat.
Photon Barrage?
Cube. No, I hated that one. I was trying to hate all the sweepers I
Okay.
saw, but I'm playing against Cube Goat Flutter. Game 3 in a black red match. I'm on white red aggro. He's on heavy red black aggro. Game 3, I'm on the play. I go. I think it was Rune Lurker Brat turn 1 into turn 2 Lita. And he goes turn 2 Ira's demonstration, wipe your board, and the game was basically over. And
Yeah.
so it still matters that your 1-drops have
does,
1 toughness
it
because
does.
of sweepers. Sweepers really do hurt these cards quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna like harp on it as much as
Yeah.
when you're spending 2 or 3 mana to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And that's another point in favor of the inspectors too, right? They're 1/2s. That does matter that they're 1/2s instead of 1/1s.
I'm gonna put this up to plus
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Put it a
All
little
right.
higher.
Actually, funny enough, looking at the top 4 cards of our tier list, because like Nurturing Pixie doesn't actually have 1 toughness;
Exactly.
it always has 2. All the top tier cards
Yep.
do still have 2 toughness, so there is a little of that bias there.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of which, next card cannot be picked up by Nurturing
Fairy.
Pixie. So
True.
yeah, total
Washed.
non-though. Take it out of your cube. Take it out of your cube. Fairy Guide Mother. This is white for a 1/1 flyer. It has an adventure, Gift of the Fae, which costs 1 and a white for a sorcery that gives target creature +2/+1 and flying until end of turn. This is very cheeky house mousy to me, where it's like I actually like this card when you get both sides of it, but man, if you just have this in your hand on one, no other play, you're like pressured into doing something with that mana on turn 1. It just feels so mopey.
Yeah, if you told me I was always going to draw this on turn like 5 or something like that, I'd probably be pretty happy to draw it because then you're getting like a cheap little flyer and you're pushing through some damage. But sometimes you have to play this on turn 1 and it feels awful.
Yeah. What do we give House Mouse? We give that like a yeah. I think this is like probably high D. I think the D plus. I think I'd rather have House Mouse. The only argument for this card is it is a flyer. If you have a flyer's lane, then I'd rather have
Yeah.
this than House Mouse. But otherwise, I think I just prefer the 1 mana ability on the Adventure on House Mouse to this one. I don't really see a reason to play both. Unless I guess you're playing heroic. If you're in like a heroic Spellslinger lane, then I guess you'll play both. But I think it's like a D plus.
Yeah, I think they're kind of close to
Yeah,
be
I agree.
honest. I don't really value either of them very much, but like they're both kind of okay at enabling exactly what they enable. Yeah, the mouse is probably a little better though, just being cheaper and better, a little bit better to play if you have to play it on turn one.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Same grade for me. They just feel so bad if you have if you don't get the full value. All right. Next up is a Battlefield Raptor with a question mark next to it. This is white for a 1/2 bird with flying and first strike. That is the whole card. I do want to say a quick piece about Battlefield Raptor is this card was in Kaldheim, right? Where it was like very good in Kaldheim. And prior to the release of this card, I think the narrative about 1-power flyers for 1 mana was that they were pretty much always bad. It was like Suntail Hawks, right? And for whatever reason, I think this card specifically shifted that narrative.
Is it not Healer's Hawk?
Healer's Hawk was good, right? From
this was like best common in the set, so that's one of the reasons why it should like it was just like
I did
way
not play
better.
much Kaldheim, so I don't have much to say on this.
This card was so good in Kaldheim, and I don't remember exactly what the like set sensibilities were to make that the case, but it shifted the narrative to like, okay, I think this card almost like single-handedly shifted the narrative in Retail Limited about like the role of 1-drops and how important it is to just have a 1-drop for some styles of deck. And you know, obviously you modify this card, it gets a lot better. For Cube, I'm surprised to see it in the conversation, honestly. I don't know if I'm missing something here, just like you stack a counter on this and it's a good blocker or hard to block with reach creatures or what, but
I think
I don't really see the value.
So I think the argument, if you look at the other flying men that we've discussed, it's Kite, which is a 1/1, it's Momo, which is a 1/1, it's Runelurker Bat, which is a 1/1, Aspirant's a 2/1, Guide Mother is a 1/1. We're about to talk about another 1/1 and more of that. This is like, I think, the only one of 2 flying men that White has access to that have 2 toughness. And I again, last night, I'm just going back to the experience I had last night where I was getting my 1 toughness stuff eaten up. And I think there's at least some argument to be made for that. To me, if you're running this card, it's because you do have to have some kind of a flying lane. If you have that, look, this does brick wall 2/1 flyers, and there's still a fair number of those running around in Cube. It can attack past those, so I think there's like something here. I don't think it's the worst card ever, but I think you have to be pretty intentional about why you're using this. It's because of that 2 toughness. I think that 2 toughness does matter. It needs to matter quite a lot, and I think it can matter in some matchups. I think it's kind of a boring Cube card again unless you're playing Watch of the Spheres, like specific blue-white flying payoffs. I play those, and I still don't find this card interesting enough to run from like an equity perspective. But I don't think the card's bad.
I think I'd want to have that and modified themes. I'd want to have like reliable ways to get a second point of power, 3rd point of toughness on this card, and then I'd probably be okay with it. But like, it does feel like low C, synergy piece for a lane for a Cube style that honestly doesn't sound like we've talked a lot about this potential heroic-y, combat oriented lane, and just the depowered removal. Like maybe it's just because I've recently been playing some of the new set, but like the depowered removal thing where your removal just sucks that is required to enable this sort of thing seems like the kind of things that would make for a really miserable limited set.
I want more. I'd say I want it more like where I'm playing the lords. Like I play a lord after this, and now this is become an actual like serious threat that is hard to deal with. I'd be okay giving it a C- just because again I think that 2nd point of toughness is pretty relevant these days in our cubes, but it's still not something I really want to play.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting this out of D because the 2nd point of toughness makes it survive more, but the thing that's surviving is still pecking in for 1. And if you're modifying it, you could have modified the other 1 toughness creatures you'd be playing instead. So I don't know. I don't think there's a strong proposition here for running this over. There's a lot of synergy stuff you can probably do, but wouldn't that all synergize with the other better flyers?
It's like a Cube equity D+, I guess is how I put it. I actually think the card itself isn't embarrassing, but it's just not that fun.
Yeah, I agree. Like I wouldn't be shocked to see this in a Cube, I don't think, but I wouldn't be drawn to it in any way.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm surprised to see it here, but like not in the sense that I'm like, oh, this is the most god awful card I've ever seen in my life.
It does have a cool explosion in the background.
It does.
It's very
birds don't look at explosions. All right, Topplegeist. Oh, my love, Topplegeist. Shadows over Innistrad, by the way, one of my favorite sets of all time, top 5 for me. White for a 1/1 flying spirit. When it enters, you tap target creature an opponent controls. It has Delirium at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. If you have 4 or more card types in your graveyard, you tap target creature that player controls. Thoughts. I love the card, but I don't think this is particularly cute of a card.
It's funny. I was looking at this and I never, wasn't really thinking about the art. And I looked at him like, that looks like a Seb McKinnon piece. And I looked down and of course it's a Seb McKinnon piece. Yeah, this card is, I've never really thought about playing this card in the last, several years at least, but like the Delirium effect is pretty good if you can enable it. I mean, it's decent.
That's the problem. How is White enabling Delirium?
Yeah.
I think is the issue. I think if this is a black card, if this is a blue card, I think I could have some interest in it. But it's a white card. It's just like, how are you turning this on? I don't know.
White is like the worst color at getting cards into the graveyard.
Yeah.
Your cards are just, your permanents just stick around.
Yeah, I think for that reason, I just have to give it a D. Even though I think if this is a black card, I think I put it in C pretty happily. It's like if you can turn that on, I think it's a powerful card. But like, I just don't see it turning on very often at all.
Yeah. And again, not a great 1-drop, unfortunately. I love that card. Tapping your opponent's stuff on their turn is so good.
Yep. Excellent.
But sorry, Tapple.
This is a Battlefield Raptor with a little more sauce, I think. But.
Okay, whoa, this. Yeah, I forgot about this card. This card has some sauce. Yeah,
Whooping,
multiple levels of instruct.
Lookout. Yeah, no sauce in that name, unfortunately. They didn't go hard on the swooping lookout here. White for an artifact creature, Phyrexian Construct. It's a 1/2 with flying and vigilance. So got some keywords and has artifact creature.
Yeah, vigilance is broken. An artifact here actually could matter because the card itself is like fringe playable on its own.
And it's a flyer, which means it wears glyph really well, or other very things that we care about with artifacts.
Vigilance flyer too just carries it extremely
absolutely.
Well.
But again, I can hear Tim's voice. Like on its own, this card is very whatever. It's extremely whatever on its own. So again, from that perspective, I can't give it a high rating. I took it out of my cube a little while ago because even though it has some equity stuff going on with its types, it's still so bad on its own. So I think this one gets up to C, whereas Raptor doesn't because for artifact reasons, basically alone, I think I'd be willing to put up in C. But it's still, I think you want it in kind of specific lanes. You want to be playing this with Michiko's Reign of Truth, et cetera, before you're that excited about it.
Vigilance is also better than First Strike on average.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
And I think if you get this, if we talked about with Battlefield Raptor, you get like the modify on it, it's pretty good. If we get this up to like a 2/3 Vigilance, that's actually a really relevant clock/blocker that your opponent's going to have to deal with. Like that's a meaningful card they're going to have to answer.
You guys say this in the videos all the time, and I don't disagree with it, but maybe it warrants like just a quick 30-second discussion on why you guys keep saying vigilance is broken, because you say that all the time, and I don't think that's obvious to every single person out there, especially on like a 1-drop.
Your creature gets to engage in twice as many combats as every other.
Yeah,
I think it's more than that, because like I don't care about that necessarily on a 1/2. It's all the tappy stuff, right? It's the Water Tribe Rally.
That too.
Sure, that's part of it. I care about it because it lets your creature. It doubles the amount of things your creature gets to do in a turn cycle.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to think about it. Ultimately, it's like part of the problem that these aggro decks can have is that there are turns where you would like to be able to get them from like 15 to 8 or whatever to set up. You're doing combat math and you're saying I can kill them in 2 turns, but then you're looking at your opponent's creatures and like they're big enough that if I go for this line, they're gonna get to be the one that takes the front foot. Yes, vigilance doesn't matter nearly as much if you're playing super slow decks. So again, this card can matter if you're in a bit more of an attrition deck. It just lets you pick, Plinkin for damage while holding back your opponent's 1/1 flyers. That's really mostly what it is. Just it lets your creature kind of do 2 times as many things as it otherwise could during combat, and I think that matters quite a lot. And yes, you're right, Tim. That then if for any cards like Water Tribe Rallier, it gets to play double duty. That also matters quite a lot. But yeah, I think that just getting to act in both combat steps is really important, especially with Modern Peasant, where the mana values are really compressed and the edges can be really, really narrow. Just getting to act in 2 combats instead of 1 is, I think, very important.
And you also have to think it's a multiplier effect, not just on your base combats, right? But like every time you put stats on this card, we mentioned it being good, but like it doubles, it's amplifying the amount of use you're getting out of that stat bonus, right? So it's not like, it's nothing super complicated. It's just that vigilance is a multiplier. It's a multiplier on your creature's combat effectiveness.
All right, the card art's making me uncomfortable.
Oh, sorry, we're giving
that one should come with a trigger warning. That's not a pleasant card to look at for long.
Teeth.
LCI.
LCI Menace. Yeah.
Miner's Guidewing. This is white for a 1/1 bird with flying and vigilance, and when it dies, target creature you control explores, which means you reveal the top card of your library. You may put it in your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, you put it in the graveyard or on top, and the creature that explored gets a +1/+1 counter.
Has there ever been a mechanic that has gone from being like so liked when it was first foiled to being so despised?
I do kind of hate Explore now. Yeah, give me maps.
Yeah,
if it made a map token, I'd be like, yes.
Map token.
Like, yep. Explore is awful because if you haven't played a lot with Explore cards, it always is like what you always want one or the other, but you don't get to choose. And so like in LCI, for example, you always wanted stats. You never wanted to draw a land outside of like I'm land screwed or whatever. You needed those stats because the creatures that explored or needed, you were using the Explorer was to win stat fights. And it just like the lack of control of it feels, it reads like it should be a really fun, interesting mechanic, and instead it's just like, well, I really need stats, and if I don't hit stats, I'm going to be mad.
It's
or
a coin
I really
flip.
need the land.
It's just a
and
coin
it's
flip.
like it feels so miserable to play.
Yeah, this card's decent though.
It's decent. Unfortunately, I think it's just been power crept into oblivion by Momo. I think Momo is just so much better than this, and it's not very close, unfortunately. So for that reason, I would give it a D. I think if you want this effect, just play Momo. Momo's better in multiple ways. I would rather have double Scry than single Explorer, and Momo gives you multiple other potential upsides on top of that. So it's unfortunate. I used to play this card, and I thought it was fine. I ended up taking this card out for Ruin Lurker Bat, which was like in the same format, I believe. And I ended up liking Ruin Lurker Bat more than this. And then we got Momo, and there's just like no reason in my mind for this to ever come back.
Agree. Yeah. Sorry, LCI. All right, we got to talk about this thing. So this looks like we're transitioning towards like protection creatures now would be my assumption here. Mom, Mother of Runes, white for a 1/1 human cleric. You can tap it. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. We got this through some sort of arena powered cube tie-in where it's now craftable at uncommon, so it is craftable on arena. Do not put this card in your peasant cube.
This goes right up there with Fire Covenant and Gut over the jail tier. This is
Mom jail. Mom jail.
Don't put this card. If I go to CubeCon and I sit down and I'm not playing I think it's All Mother's Cube or something like.
Vintage.
I think it's
you're either playing Vintage or Oops All Mom's Cube.
Well,
yeah,
hey,
there you go.
then you can talk. I think it's actually in a couple of peasant cubes that are at CubeCon, and it's in a couple of peasant cubes made by designers I respect, where their attitude is it's like powerful, but it's not egregious. I think it's kind of egregious.
This is super egregious. This is egregious for multiple reasons. Like it makes combat super difficult. Removal is virtually impossible unless you're playing sweepers, and even the sweepers like don't necessarily work effectively. They leave the mom around if they want. This card's so dumb. There is no more depressing feeling in a lower power environment than seeing your opponent play Mother of Runes on turn 1.
That's to me the thing keeping its power level in check is the fact that it is not always a very good top deck. It can often be quite a bad top deck, but the swings in power level of this card when they get this down on turn 1 and you don't have the removal immediately, it can just be game over sometimes, and for some strategies, and it's just like I don't know. I don't encourage playing the card. I think it is S+. I think it is like one, the best, probably the best card on this list, and I would not recommend playing it.
Yeah, I think this is probably the second or third best. I think Gut's like clearly the best card we've reviewed, but this is like not far off. And honestly, this could be better, but just because you can play it on turn 1 and like it wins the game sometimes, which Gut can't do. But I think on average, Gut's probably the best card we've reviewed, and Fire Covenant has some of the biggest swings. But like this card's right up there.
It's also just not fun. Like it's similar to Gut. Like I just don't know the degree of not fun that you're putting on your opponent when this works out is way higher than the average amount of not fun. And I usually don't care about that much at all. Like, but even I can't get past the feelings that this card creates.
Danielius doesn't care about fun.
No, I really don't. But this card is.
Yeah, when Dan, who doesn't care about fun, is telling you a card is unfun,
Unfortunately, I'm unable to.
Can you adjust the pixie?
Oh, sure. Here, I'll make this a regular. Below, right? I'll make the interceptors S-.
The card's just not an uncommon, people. Like, yes, I know it is, but it's not. It's not.
This is ask yourself: would they ever print this below Mythic in a modern retail set?
No. Look at Giver of Runes. That card's worse than this, and they printed it at rare.
I agree. That is the way to think. Like, even in a Jumpstart, like would they print this as an uncommon in a Jumpstart set? It's like, nope, they would not. They would print the Duke, which is a very good card. We're going to get to soon. It's like their modern Jumpstart uncommon version of Mother of Runes, which I don't even think they would print the Duke in retail most likely at uncommon. But that's the most powerful thing I think they're willing to do in this template these days.
Yeah.
Below rare.
If you're power maxing, play Mom. If you're not,
Yeah.
don't.
I think if
don't
you're
touch
power
this card.
maxing too, just like find a. I don't mean this. I don't want to be dismissive, but maybe find a different format than Peasant to like specifically focus on these sort of power outliers from a different era.
Yeah. I think it's yeah. If it brings you joy, that's fine. It's just it's not going to be the kind of Peasant I would like to play, but I think there's an audience out there for that. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to cards that aren't Mother of Runes.
I guess I'll take this as a pitch. If you're someone who plays with these broken, messed up cards and it brings you and your playgroup joy, let us know why.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, explain to us what we're missing.
Yeah, what happened? What happened to you? Zach Fair is up next. This is why. By the way, I'm playing the second part of the Final Fantasy VII remake, and Zach Fair is just like not an interesting character in the Final Fantasy VII series. I don't know why people love Zach Fair so much.
Way too fair as a Magic card Tim?
Yeah, actually, I'd probably read it right. It's white for a 0/1. That's pretty bad. Legendary creature, human soldier. Enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. So 1 mana, 1/2. You can pay 1, sacrifice Zach Fair. Target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. You can put Zach Fair's, or you must put Zach Fair's counters on that creature and attach an equipment that was attached to Zach Fair to that creature. Flavor win.
Flavor on this card. I was gonna say the flavor on this card is so good.
Yeah. Flavor win. For those of you who don't know, and also spoilers don't matter for Final Fantasy VII anymore.
A 30-year-old video game, yeah.
Yeah, Zach Fair's Buster Sword is the sword that Cloud ends up taking up as his own, so that's why the transfer of equipment matters.
Yeah,
it's
not
very
just that,
clever.
he takes up his entire personality. Like Cloud.
Yeah, he becomes him basically.
Yeah, it tries to mimic him. Yeah. When we got this card, this was a pretty big deal, though. It felt like just a pretty big upgrade.
Holding up that one definitely hurts this card.
And
it does cool things
too. I think the sacrificing it, like when the Duke came out, I fought for Zach Fair being better. I was like, well, I think if I'm putting them in the arena, I prefer Zach Fair. And after playing with both Fair in my environment and then the Duke in y'all's, I think the Duke is just better. Like getting to keep the Duke around, getting to like potentially add more counters to the Duke with different ways, and then getting to continually use the ability. Ultimately, I think Indestructible's not actually stronger than Hexproof. So yeah, I think you can run Zach Fair as like multiple copies of this effect if you really want to, but if you only have room for one, I don't think I would play Zach. So for me, that makes it like a CC minus level card. It's not bad, it's not terrible, but I think the Duke does this job better.
Yeah, I think I'd be willing to go somewhere like C+, B-, because I do think like it is worse than the Duke, and we're gonna talk about that in a second. But I still think this card's like super playable compared to a lot of what you have access to at this mana value.
Yeah, I'd go C probably tiebreaker. Like high C is fine. I think the card is totally fine, but agree, outclassed by our next card here.
I think if you're running like an equipment lane or some sort of modified lane specifically, there could be some cool stuff here. I guess you'd have to be specifically equipment because the Duke works in that modified lane as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of, the Duke is from, I want to say the Avatar like Jumpstart product. Yep. So pretty easy to skip over this one or have not seen it. The card is the Duke Rebel Sentry. It's white for a 0/1 legendary human rebel ally. It enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's another 1 mana 1/2 with a +1 counter. You can tap it, remove a counter from the Duke, put a +1 counter on another target creature you control, and it gains hexproof until end of turn.
My recollection is that I was very high on this in the Avatar set review, and that momentum has sort of stayed. I think this card's awesome. Like, this card is really impressive. I think when you play it on turn one, followed by engine cards, you feel incredible. When your opponent plays it, you always know you've got to get rid of it because otherwise they're going to be able to, protect all of their creatures, potentially scale them up. It's great with Rosy Cotton and Mutanimals and all the other stuff that can put counters on things. I mean, just a really rock solid card. Also great with Sarn of the Silken Throne / Spider UK because you can tap and then pick it back up and replay it. Just really powerful card.
And just leaving the creature in play to then wear an equipment or pick up a +1/+1 from some other effect or whatever else. Maybe you get another counter on this somehow. It's not like that's impossible to do with Rosy Cotton or whatever else. So yeah, I definitely think this is better than Zach Fair. Just the fact that you don't have to sacrifice it, I think is a big deal. And the quote unquote tempo hit that you take from not being able to activate this immediately the turn it comes down, it's relevant. It is a worse top deck than Zach Fair, but it's just so much better on turn one, in my opinion. So I think this one definitely gets to be, I don't know that it gets to A for me, but I think high B is
A. I think this card's awesome.
What else do you have in A here? So
good protection, yeah.
I think it'd be the bottom of A, but I do think I'd put it in A.
I guess I'm okay putting it in A. What do you think, Tim?
I like A. I like A. Mostly to fill out some more A's, but
Sure.
hear me out for a second. Nest and Grounds. You move
Ooh.
chapter counters onto this thing, and then you use the chapter counters to protect.
It is
creature
remove
as
a
well.
counter, right? So yeah, you just got to put nesting
Okay,
grounds in your cube.
sure.
Unfortunately, that's the real cost there. But yeah,
Yeah, Nest and Grounds is such a cool card that never gets activated.
in your white aggro deck, you just got to play a nesting grounds. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. You have 16 other planes. You're good. All right. Alseid of Life's Bounty is white for a 1/1 enchantment creature. It's a nymph. It has a lifelink, and you can pay 1 and sacrifice the Alseid. Target creature or enchantment you control gains protection from the color of your choice until the end of turn.
This is kind of worst of both worlds.
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately,
Just some sort of buffalo creatures where you really need to care that
Need
it's
the
an
enchantment.
enchantment.
Yep,
Yeah, I was
agreed.
gonna say if we ever get the enchantment module that we've hinted at potentially existing one day, this might make it, but I'm gonna guess that they probably power creep this by then.
Yeah, this was good in TBD, but TBD came out in 2021 or whatever.
Yeah, and
2020,
protection I
so.
think is ultimately the best probably of all these effects. That's the only upside that it has. But 1-mana 1/1 lifelink is like, very whatever. I think I'm okay putting it D plus. Like maybe there's a world where it gets up to C in the future if we get an enchantment module, but I think at the moment it's hard to justify.
You got to remember the lifelink's also pretty fake on this card. You might get like one hit in with it, but when you use it, you're gonna block. Ideally, I mean, I guess you're not even gonna get to do that. You're not gonna get to do it. You're not even gonna get to block sack this thing because you're gonna have to do it when your opponent plays a removal spell, which will be before blockers. So.
Yeah.
Can protect your enchantments though. Can give your
True.
enchantments
It
protection.
can't matter.
Yeah, but again, you need to actively care and want. All right, Selfless Savior alluded to this a couple times already. This is white for a 1/1 dog. Sacrifice Selfless Savior. It's just a free activated ability. Another target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. This is from the era of like 2 to 3 years where all the dogs just sacrifice themselves to save things. Like every dog design was just the dog dies and you get to save something else. I don't know why they ran that back like 5 times, but the immediate comparison is the Benevolent Bodyguard, right? The 1/1 that sacrifices to give protection. This gives indestructible instead.
I mean, I think the immediate comparison is just Zac Fair, right? And I think Zac Fair is just obviously a better card.
I think this is a D for dang that flavor text hits hard.
Yeah, I think it's like a D minus. I really think there's just no reason to run this card these days unless you like dogs. And feel like
Annoying
dogs.
with Abiding Grace was always annoying with this card.
What am I talking about? Torgal. Obviously, you're playing this in your Torgal lane.
Yeah, it protects Torgal and
Gives an extra counter.
is dog.
Is dog. Yeah. Maybe I'll give it a D for that, not D minus, because Torgal's great.
T equals dog. Steadfast Unicorn. We got a question about this last night. Someone mentioned in chat this card was like, I think it was Elfindor. He's like, oh, the unicorn. I'm getting soloed by the unicorn. The unicorn keeps killing me. And then
The
somebody
unicorn
else.
is so good.
Yeah, it is. Somebody else in chat was like, someone who hadn't played JDG that much was like, is the unicorn really that good? And I don't know if it was Danelius or someone else who responded like, yeah, they just read the card. They're like, yeah, it lets you pay 4 mana to get +1/+1. And
I want to claim a lot of credit for this card. I feel like I was the drum beater for this card for many people.
You sold me on this one. It's really good though. This card's rock solid.
So Steadfast Unicorn, this is white for a 1/2 unicorn. You can pay 3 and a white to give your creatures +1/+1 in vigilance until end of turn. You can only do that during your turn. My recollection is that this card was very, very good in AFR as well.
Yeah, busted. Yeah, and that to me is like we talk a lot about the utility of leveraging 17 lands data or whatever for evaluating cards for cube. And I know, Tim, you're not a big fan of that. I'm a huge fan of it, not because I think that you should just blindly follow those stats and just play all the cards that are good in retail. It's like I just view it as a signal. It's like I see Unicorn perform well in retail. It's like, all right, that's probably worth a test then. And then I played it in cube. It's like, yeah, this card's very, very good in cube. The fact that you get to like hold this card till turn 5 potentially and just go like play it out of nowhere, vigilance and +1/+1 your team is great. You don't have to activate this before attacks. You often want to because that vigilance is a really powerful effect, but like you don't have to. You can just wait and see how blocks develop and then activate it if you want to. And then it's just it's a 1/2. And we've talked so much about how those 1/2s are way better than 1/1. So yeah, this card is awesome to me. I think slam dunk A. It doesn't get up to S. Obviously, it's not value generating, but I definitely would take these other S tier cards above it. But I think it's one of the best 1-drops we have in Peasant.
Yeah, it's also great with Soul Ring and the blue
Omen Hawker. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
card.
there's I was shocked at how often this card just you activate it and like your opponent is just put into a terrible spot. I will say, make sure you read that last line. I did lose a game before because I forgot that it did not activate during
Yeah.
your opponent's
It's
turn.
an assertive card for sure.
Yeah, it is an assertive card. But that being said, you'll play it in like your mid-range deck too. You'll just play it as a card that lets you kind of break parity on a board state, or like get in with things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get in with, and make attacks you otherwise wouldn't. Obviously really good too because of cards like Starfoot Shepherd or Lively Dirge, where this is a really cheap card to go dump into your graveyard and bring back with Lively Dirge for a future turn or something like that. Just probably the best version of this effect, because while some of the other ones do it a little more while some of the other ones do this a little more efficiently, none of them of the other ones really cost 1 mana and also have a relatively effective activation cost. I think the other ones are like 5 mana or something.
Yeah, the only ones that cost 4, other than this one, cost 2 mana to play up front. So I think this is like kind of the most efficient version of this effect. The only downside is, you can only activate it during your turn, which is a downside.
Yeah, definitely a believer in the unicorn. Just for reference, they gave this an alchemy rework that bumps the ability up to 5 mana. Like that, they recognized the card was powerful and bumped it up as well. All right, next card is never seen this in my life. I don't know where this came from or what this is. I'm pretty sure it's fake, but we'll read it anyway because it's on the screen. This is a Marvel Jumpstart card. I have to apologize. There's so many cards in that set that like I have seen this and read it. I don't know what it does. So let's do that. Let's do it live. General Thunderbolt Ross, I guess, is white for a 1/1 legendary human soldier. It has first strike and battalion. Whenever Thunderbolt Ross and at least 2 other creatures attack, attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. Does pump itself, so with battalion 2/1 first strike attacker pumps the rest of the board. Okay,
Right,
there's a vision here. It's okay.
This guy can best a Eldraine Mouse in 1v1 combat. He must be good.
It's a bad one. I mean, it's a pretty bad one. But it's okay, I guess. 1/1 first strike for 1 is something.
We've moved into the creatures that pump, by the way, the creatures that pump the team. And there's very few creatures that actually do this sort of a thing for white at this mana value. That's really the key. It's like, there's the artifact that I don't even know, Signal Pest, that but Battlecry, my recollection is Battlecry doesn't actually affect the creature that has the Battlecry, it just affects everything else, and this does affect itself, which is a relevant thing. It's just you got to put a 1/1 1/1 in your deck to make this happen. That's the concern.
Yeah, I mean, the first strike is actually pretty relevant here because it means it doesn't just get blocked by a single token and die.
Yeah.
It pumping itself. I mean, getting up to 2 power is decent. The problem is that we're not really activating this until like minimum turn 3, probably turn 4, and at that point has this card been outscaled? Is the problem. Like, unlike the unicorn, this has to pitch itself into combat in order to do this. That being said, if you're playing specifically the card Rally at the Hornburg, I could see this being pretty good.
I don't hate this card. I think there's something here. It's like, again, it's fairly novel. It's just hard for me to ever want to put a 1/1 that doesn't give me value, that has to be attacking, that needs other things in play. It's asking a decent amount of you. I'm just trying to think. So I played a deck last night that was very much a white go white deck, and I'm trying to imagine how this would have felt in that deck. And there are spots where it would definitely have been very relevant, where I had a board of 1/1s and my opponent had a board of 2/2s. And this would have been extremely relevant in those situations. So I have a hard time giving this a super low grade. I don't know exactly if I mean, we have access to it ourselves right now. I don't really feel like playing it. But
I feel like I want to go Coward C on this.
Yeah.
I pick C.
Yeah, I don't want to play this myself, but I see the vision and I don't think it's terrible. I just think it's asking a lot, but also the payoff is pretty good for 1 mana.
It is. I think Coward C seems fine.
You're telling me. First off, apparently this is Red Hulk. I just looked this up. I don't know the character, but this is Red Hulk. So played by Harrison Ford.
Nice.
Also, like, it's like the whole U.S. military back there. Like, and your general of the whole U.S. military is a 1/1. Like,
yeah, because it's not about any one person.
He's
okay,
commands.
It's about the team. They're a battalion.
He's as strong as Momo. Like,
Momo's like a lemur, right? Like, Momo's just a little dude.
I'm not.
And look at that mustache, Tim. That mustache is just aura.
You're right.
It is very cool.
That's where the first strike comes from.
Yep.
All right. I will say, like, I'm fine with C here. I'm not intrigued by the card at all.
You wouldn't be, so that's fair.
No,
you're not someone who ever attacks with 3 creatures. What are you talking about?
You're right. Why would you ever do that? Why do you like losing so bad? All right. Next up is a Yoshin Soldier. This is a single generic mana for a 1/1 artifact creature. It's a soldier. When Yoshin Frontliner, I think I said Yoshin Soldier, its name is Yoshin Frontliner. When it attacks, another target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it unearths for a single white mana. I wanted to make a case for playing this for a little while. I do remember it being a little bit weaker in the retail format. It's artifact creature for one. It has some minor graveyard discard synergies. Ultimately, I don't think the card is super powerful, but I don't hate it either.
I kind of hate it. Like, unlike the last one, the general, this has to attack to give you. Well, it doesn't have to attack, but part of the card's value is on attacks. But it's just a 1/1/1, so it's like it can't ever pump itself.
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't
always
pump
going to die. To me, I'm only interested in this card in the sense that it's an artifact that makes an artifact. Kind of, it's a 1-mana artifact. It dies. You make it another artifact. So for your lanes that care about your white lanes that care a lot about artifacts, maybe they play this. But I think these days there's just so many cool artifact cards we get access to that if you're only playing this for its double artifact text, then you can do better. So for me, this is a D, but it's kind of a cool artifact card for white.
It's like a D plus, which isn't saying very much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, D plus for sure.
Yeah, Teld just left and came back. He's like, yeah, that card sucks.
D plus, yeah.
I knew there was a good opportunity to step away for a second.
For sure. Okay, Wall Rune Enforcer. So this was the tapper we were talking about. This is white for a 1/2 human soldier from the Clue set, as you can see from Ravnica Clue. It's 1 tap target creature with mana value 2 or greater. So as noted, this cannot tap most tokens or 1 mana creatures. Taps everything else though, and it is a 1/2 instead of a 1/1, and generic mana instead of a white mana for like Gideon's Lawkeeper.
Yeah, just clearly better Lawkeeper in my mind, like from the things we've already talked about. Even 1/2. If 1/2 is all the advantage it had, I think that would be massive. But the generic mana also matters quite a lot. So I think it's just a slam dunk better than Lawkeeper. I think it's a rock solid role player. That B minus something in there, but I see it get added to decks all the time. And we've talked a lot about my love of 1/2s. I just think that 1/2s are extraordinarily relevant these days in Cube for a host of reasons. So rock solid role player. It doesn't have a super high Cube equity at the moment, except for the fact that Captain America potentially get multiple taps in with this. I don't think that's like irrelevant. So I think I took this out for Wanderbrine Trapper at one point, and I'm not actually confident that this card is worse than Trapper. I could honestly see this card being better.
Yeah, the one big knock on this card is that we've recently gotten some very large tokens, stuff like Trumpeting Herd and Snarl Song against the green decks. It is pretty annoying to not be able to target those. But otherwise, I think this card is just really solid, especially against the giant green creatures you would normally have issues dealing with. Your opponent plays a Generous Ent. This lets you get past it, which is something that's pretty nice. I'm not super high on this card. I'm not like itching to play it, but I recognize this is probably the best of the tappers. Just that 2 toughness is a big deal.
So we gave Wanderbrine a C+. Does this get up to B-, or is it also a C+?
I don't know. I would probably put it in the same category because, well, Wanderbrine has more synergy potential.
It also attacks for more early game. Like if you play Wanderbrine on turn 1, it might get in for 4 damage.
I just don't know if I prefer 2/1 to 1/2. I think they both have their pluses and minuses.
Yeah. I think this is a good argument for putting them right next to one another.
All right, fair enough.
If you have thoughts about that, let us know in the comments. Got to get that CTA in there, or else YouTube will ban us forever. All right, Monk of the Open Hand. This is white for a 1/1 elf monk. It has Flurry of Blows. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Monk of the Open Hand. You cannot put this card in a Peasant Cube because you cannot play the Bahamut guy that fetches it. You're just literally not allowed to do that. So.
Oh yeah, the Monk of the Open Flower.
So compare this card to Kid Loki, which we just got. Kid Loki is a blue 1/1. Kid Loki draws a card on you drawing your second card each turn, which can happen on your opponent's turn, and this almost never is going to get triggered on both your turn and your opponent's turn. And that card also has that extra synergy potential around like giving hexproof. I think that card is like clearly better than this. And I don't even love Kid Loki. I think Kid Loki's like a C-ish level card, so I think it's just a slam dunk D. I would not recommend this for anyone's cube.
It is easy to see with this card the vision. However, yeah, you're just like, it is always harder to trigger Clarion Spirit than you think it is. Even in Clarion Spirit, I think is a good card, but like, I very frequently see it put in decks that are not good at enabling it. The problem with Monk of the Open Hand is you kind of just want to be playing a bunch of other Monk of the Open Hands. And, you also need card draw to keep the card flow coming. Like, if I knew every game I was going to open this, Mishra's Bauble, and, like, 2 more Mishra's Baubles, maybe I'd be interested. But
Also, just an atrocious top deck, just a god awful top deck,
unbelievably bad.
Yeah. Also, what do you mean? Both your hands are closed. Like, what are you talking about? Just straight up lie. Not good. Yeah, I like D. Misses on so many axes here.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. You ready for the most disappointing card of all time?
This poor guy. We gave this an award in the higher power level cube, didn't we?
No, we gave it in the peasant.
We did in the peasant too. Yeah,
So
we did in
season
peasant,
Warren Guard award for most disappointing card of the year.
Yeah, it has an award named after it. This is white. Seasoned Warren Guard is white for a 1/2 rabbit warrior. Whenever it attacks while you control a token, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn.
Okay, I agree with y'all. It was disappointing. I have taken it out of my cube. I read this and I'm just like, yeah, this is still a fine card. It's not great. I thought it was gonna be great. I thought it was gonna be like, this is just a 1-mana 3/2. It's like, well, it's a 1-mana 3/2 on attacks, and you don't always have a token, and then it does absolutely nothing. So it's like, yeah, it is not as good as we thought. It's not a bad card though, right? It's like this card was insanely good in BLB, largely because I just got to have these big boards, and it was often attacking as a 1-mana 3/2. It's just like, it's not that exciting, I guess. That's part of the issues. Like the cube equity argument is not necessarily great. I don't know. I obviously don't love the card. I'm not playing with it anymore. I don't think it's amazing. I think I like it more than y'all. I still would give it like a C. A C. You have plenty of token making in your environment, but it's just kind of narrow too. It's like there are decks that you won't play this in. That's a bummer, but I just don't think it's that bad of a card. Like, you will get to attack with this as a 1-mana 3/2 a fair amount of the time when you draw it in your opening hand. That's not awful, but it's better than a lot of the Ds we have. I just don't think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think when I came to the conclusion of this card is that the problem isn't necessarily the text on the card itself so much as that the decks that are interested in a 1-mana 3/2 that has to attack, essentially. I mean, I know this card is not bad, but like essentially a 1-mana 3/2 offensive only card. And the decks that are really good at making tokens are not often the same decks. There are occasions where they are, but most of the time, the decks that are good at making a bunch of tokens are the decks that want their cards to be really flexible and play both sides of the fence, or be something like the unicorn, where it's like, this is just like making my whole board really, really scary. This card doesn't have the impact of something like that, and it's not a good top deck like that. It's like, you don't really care that it's good attacking, because it just doesn't have any flexibility.
Well, but like, isn't this a card for our environments, in the sense that like what you really want to be pairing this with is like Barb Batterfist? You play Barb Batterfist on turn 2 with this.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Like,
if I knew I was always if I could construct it so that I always drew Seasoned Warren Guard into Dragoon's Lance, this card would be awesome.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
I think this card, I don't think this card is a straight D. I think it's a card that we read and thought it would probably be like an A, and I think it's like a C-. I think it's like a very niche card for a very small band of decks.
I agree with that. Tim hates it. Tim does not like 1-mana cards that attack.
Let's ask the goose what the goose thinks. I abstain because you've both said C, and there's nothing I can say to change that. So
vote is relevant. We did.
I could be very easily pushed to a D, but I'm willing to start at a C.
Apparently, folks, Seasoned Warren Guard is a C.
I think it's C-. Yeah,
like the lowest of C's.
Yeah.
This is like the borderline between C and D.
Yeah, look, it literally right there,
okay.
Right at the very end.
Sure.
See?
Yeah. Okay. Also, it's just suddenly very dark in my room because it's pouring rain outside. So sorry, I'm gonna get darker now, I guess. Favorite hoplite. This is white for a 1/2 human soldier with heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, put a +1/+1 counter on it and prevent all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. Hallmark heroic cube card. It's great if you're doing that thing. It's under supported in just the average cube, unfortunately. I do like this. I mean, I like heroic, obviously. I'm a Theros stan, but you need to. This is a probably lower on power level, but also, we give the Thraben Inspectors S's on cube equity. This is like really low for cube equity because it requires so much support to actually consistently do anything with it.
What do you mean? You just have to always open on honor, and then it's awesome.
I do wonder, because we've talked about maybe making a cube that is specifically trying to utilize a lot of these synergies that we talk down quite a lot, just to see actually what are the good cards. Like, how do you build those cubes? That tells us, is this a C or is it a D? Like, would you even play this card in your cube that's doing heroic stuff? Like, I assume so.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not positive. It's like maybe this doesn't even get there in that sort of cube. It's like, bottom of C, top of D. I think D plus even still, because like I don't see a great reason to be doing a cube where this is a card that you're happy to play. Whereas like at least calling wing or whatever, there's some of these 2-drops which have a little bit more juice to them, and I just don't know if this gets there.
Yeah, I think it gets there in the environment that supports it.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, just
Can we
think
really
Pioneer,
put this in
right?
D?
This was.
Can we really put this in D after we just put Season War and Guard?
No, I think C minus is fine for this. I think
Yeah,
I
C's
think
good.
C-
This was like the premier 1-drop for like the Pioneer,
Yeah, that's really what there's an environment where this is a premier card. That's the way to think about it. Yeah.
Yep, which was Theros Limited, because that card was busted in Theros Limited.
Yeah.
Boros Elite. So another battalion dude. This is white for a 1/1 human soldier. Battalion here, if it attacks with at least 2 other creatures, gives it +2/+2. So a 1-mana 1/1 that attacks as a 3/3 if it attacks with 2 other creatures.
This is the opposite of the general. The general like has utility in those decks. This is like big whoop. Like in my go wide deck now, this one thing that was awful before now gets to be bigger. That just seems terrible.
This card was incredible in Gate Crash Limited in 2012, 2013.
This is like bad Season Worn Guard. This is like Season Worn Guard. This is what this card wants to be, Season Worn Guard.
This is bad Season Warren Guard, folks.
Yeah.
Because that card
Exactly.
is the no keyword either.
Yeah.
No keyword.
No, I think this makes me feel good that we put Season War and Guard slightly above this. Is like Season War and Guard can be the bad, it can be like the bottom of the bad, like wants to be good attackers.
Yeah. This
Or the top of the bad. You know what I'm saying?
Don't play this
Yeah,
card. This card's bad.
feeling real good about that. Feeling real good about where Season Warren Guard is in the
There you go, like that.
tier list right now.
Oh wait, I missed it.
Tim's about to crash out.
No, I'm feeling great. I like that.
We're
it's
making
a C.
Tim talk about white mana 1-drops. This is just not where Tim wants to be.
Yeah,
alive
we
today.
just talked about 50 cards that are all the same card. Leonin Vanguard. Hey, this one's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I guess.
Remember when this card won a Pro Tour?
Yeah.
No, what? Did it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
This
remember
card
that.
was a 4 of in a Pro Tour winning deck.
Holy Jesus! Magic used to be so pure. Look at it now. It's so tainted. White for a 1/1 cat soldier at the beginning of combat. On your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures, Leonin Vanguard gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you gain a life.
Again, just play the general instead. I think the general is like clearing all these cards quite easily.
But wait. What about our life gain synergies? What about our Johnny's
shoot.
Pride?
You're right. D plus. You're right. D plus.
It seemed like they carry no weight on their own. They carry no weight at all. They're just dead weight until you get doing the thing, and it's not like they go above and beyond.
And they're not fun cards to draft with. To me that's the thing. Is like all these cards up here that are just more fun to draft with because you can think about them as you're picking other cards. You don't think about Leonin Vanguard after you've taken it. It doesn't really impact your draft at all.
We're gonna
You're
go.
saying you're not just sitting there getting excited about the Johnny's Pride mate you're wanting to hit?
No.
Oh, we're good. Yeah, I was gonna say we're going Vanguard into Trelisara into Tigra, and we're going.
There you
off.
go. Yeah.
Opponent will not disrupt that at all.
Okay, slightly more exciting card here.
Yeah, clever Lumimancer is white for a 0/1. Ship it, human wizard with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +2/+2. And Teld your photon blast barrage.
I was gonna say the only reason we care about Magecraft is specifically to combo with photon blast barrage, which probably wins you the game if you play it with this.
That would be sick, but. What do you? X equals 5. This becomes a 12/12 or something.
This is basically
12,
just
12,
like
board wipe your opponent.
this is just like another 1-drop for your heroic cube, right? That's like the only place you're ever playing this. Is
Yeah,
heroic cube.
probably.
Yeah.
So like it fits in that sort of spell slingery space. Like if like you're at the problem though is that the best spell slinger payoff in white is Raph, right? And Raph wants you to play a long game, and this card does not want you to play a long game.
Well, but if you're playing your heroic cube, part of the certainly one of your lanes is an aggressive lane with this and the card we just talked about. And I mean I assume that in that sort of a cube I would still rather have Hoplite, but I can imagine again in that cube I would still want Lumimancer as well. So I'm okay giving it a C minus. I want to build this cube. I guess what I'm saying. I want to build this cube, see what this is like, and then maybe we'll find out actually these cards even in that cube suck. But I can at least envision the lane. You're playing this with your Team or Battle Rage style stuff, and it'll be threatening.
I do think this is also specifically a card that, like, if we get a couple more cards like Photon Blast Barrage that are like kind of like playable and make a bunch of copies themselves, this does get really compelling. Like, if you're able to make 4 or 5 copies of a card and make this like a 10-12 or
show of confidence.
Yeah.
Plumb the forbidden, but that's not really what you want to be doing with this sort of
Yeah,
thing.
no, it needs to be something that like impacts the board or like efficiently, converts resources or whatever. But like if we get those, this card has a really compelling ceiling that I don't think you're ever gonna reach. I think that's more Magic Christmas Land / Commander bait, but it is cool.
Yeah. Is worth noting. Chain of I had to look it up. Chain of Smog is an uncommon, so you could have that combo,
Combo. Kind
the
of.
infinite combo or whatever with any Magecraft card.
There
So,
you go. All right.
okay. Stonebinder's Familiar up next. This is white for a 1/1 Spirit Dog. Whenever one or more cards are put into exile during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. The ability triggers only once each turn.
Do we have to put that rider of only during?
I know that's so sad, man. That's so sad.
I do think like if this card didn't have that rider, I'd be pretty excited about it. And even as it is, like it almost is compelling just because the number of ways there are to put things into exile.
Agreed. Agreed. But it's still ultimately it's kind of a Kid Loki, Monk of the Open Hand, one that just grows one counter a turn. Like the place I'm excited, like all of these cards get more exciting if we get like an Agatha Soul Cauldron, card in Peasant. I'm not saying of that power level, but a card that's like really getting to do some cool stuff with counters, and we just don't have anything like that right now. So like, I think until we get something like that, this is a D. But there's some sauce here, I guess I'd put it.
Yeah. Notably,
Cool.
this works with
Cool
this works with all of the like impulse draw, in addition like plot and foretell and all that sort of
There's
stuff.
a lot of ways to grow it. It just grows so slowly, and it's a terrible top deck again.
Also, Dead Dog. Like again, this is from that era. It's just Dead Dog. Sorry. If that
Dog for
triggered
Torgal. Dog for Torgal.
anybody. Dog for Torgal. Spirit for.
I don't think.
What's
there's
that
anything
uncommon
glorious
Something that
elephant?
cares about spirits.
What's the elephant, white red elephant that cares about
Oh,
spirits?
Quintorius.
Quintorius.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's
See,
the
does
spirit
the,
for
does the
Quintorius.
uncommon Quintorius buff spirits? I thought it
The
was
one
made.
from the one from old Strixhaven did, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Optimistic Scavenger from Duskmourn. Dangerous one drop.
This
in
is
Duskmourn.
this is like the hottest sea ever.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes, it is. White 1/1 human scout. It has spooky whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature.
Yeah, if you did not play Duskmourn, this card is a certified bomb. Like your opponent played this on turn one, and if you didn't have the removal spell, you're like, oh well, guess we lose this game.
Yeah, but we need an enchantment module of some kind. We need enchantment tokens. We need like a rally at the Hornburg that makes enchantments. And if we get there, then like again, I've said this before. It's like I have some cards earmarked as if we can someday get an enchantment module in cube. What are the cards I care about the most to consider? And this is like 1A, 1B on that list. It's a busted card.
This is like constructed playable if you've got the. At one point, this was seeing like 4 of playing constructed.
Yeah. But you need
this card's like
you need the module.
no. Why is there no limit on this? Why does it work on every single enchantment? Like you play like 3 enchantments in a turn, it pops out 3 1/1 counters. This card's crazy.
Like the green one, the generous thing only put counters on itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the generous might have put counters on anything.
I thought it was just self. I could be wrong.
And this triggers when you fully unlock a room.
Hey, CH.
Yeah, card's very good in an undersupported theme.
Yeah, this is like very top of C for me. It's like this is
Top of C. Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is the best. I think this is way more powerful than any card in C.
Wait, but I just don't think you can play it right now. Is the problem? It's
but I'm willing to put it at the top of C because the niche isn't there yet. But like if it was, this card is like slam dunk. It's just the niche isn't there.
All right, Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I like top of C. I mean, it's got some of the highest output. It's just,
Sure.
It's C for a specific style of deck, which is what C's are. They're.
Yeah, I mean this is an S in the deck. If we
No,
get
that's
the
true.
option,
Yeah.
we get an S in the deck.
You're right. So generous
right.
visitor also that one's whenever you cast an enchantment, it get a bit of counter on a creature. So
that one's a good bit worse.
Yeah, that is worse. It doesn't work with tokens. Or if we get enchantment lands someday. Yeah.
All right, get to check in on Nest and Bot. Are we going to see Doom Traveler
No.
later?
And I'll go over at the end some of the cards that I left off the list for time reasons.
Okay, so Nesting Bot, this is from Ether Drift. It's white for a 1/1 artifact creature robot. It has start your engines. I'm just going to need you to figure out what that is on your own. When this creature dies, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token, and at max speed, this creature gets +1/+0. So
this card has no text on it other than artifact creature that dies into an artifact.
Exactly. Yep. That is all that matters.
yeah. Yeah, it could theoretically be a 2/1 at some point, but that doesn't even
This is
transfer
a good
to the
this is a good
token,
Sharpie
so.
cube candidate. Just like erase everything else other than like the when this creature dies.
Would literally not change the card's power level at
Nope.
all.
Just
No
put the
effect.
ability this creature gets +1/+0 on it, and
Well,
it's just a
yeah, I
2/1 at
guess
that
that's
point.
Sure, yeah,
Like,
you
you
okay,
could
sure,
do that
you
if you
can
really
make it
wanted
slightly
to.
better with Sharpies. Sure.
okay, yeah. I mean, where first off, where are we at on 1 mana 1/1 that dies into a 1/1, and then obviously this is like a step above that by being an artifact that makes an artifact.
I'm not playing Indebted Spirit anymore. Though we're going to talk about that soon. I'm not playing. I wouldn't play Doom Traveler. I don't have much interest in that stuff. The fact that this is an artifact, potentially 2 artifacts for 1 mana is carrying the whole card. And I think for me that leaves it as like a C. It's a card you can play if you're really looking to incentivize or give support pieces to artifact / sacrificey sort of lanes in white. If this was a black card or red card, I'd like it a lot more. But I think it's okay. You could run it. I ran it for a while. It's not in right now, but it's not unreasonable. These just aren't like high tier cards.
Yeah, I think the white cards just don't care about the death side of this. Like being a white card just is I would much rather have something that just had a better output. You don't have ways to crack this on your own very much unless you're running what's that really cool 3-drop we talked about in white that like sacks to make an Eldrazi dude.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. But, yeah.
But like that doesn't necessarily even go in the same space as something that wants a bunch of artifacts. I think that
Extricator of Sin.
yeah, that's the one. I think this is a little fake. Like we ran it for a minute and it didn't do anything. I think the text on this card ends up being fake more often than not. Like it's fine. There's a floor on it, but I don't think it's good at all.
I'm fine with C minus. Like
Another
it's a
Buffalo.
low tier synergy piece.
Mm-hmm. I just realized I can frame my head with the window behind me.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh,
Just
Stay in this position the whole time. It looks really nice. All right, next up is Arcbound Mauser, which, by the way, if you didn't know, a Mauser definitionally is a animal that catches mice. Fun little fact there for you. Arcbound Mauser is white for a 0/0 artifact creature cat. It has a lifelink and modular 1, so it enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, you can put its +1/+1 counters on target artifact creature.
Yeah, I don't see why we're doing this.
I have an Affinity Cube, and this isn't even like that good. And where when all your creatures are artifact creatures, it's not even that good.
Yeah, I just give it a D. Move on with life.
Yep. Easy. This guy, what's this from? March of the Machine. Enduring Bond Warden. This is white for a 0/1 human scout with backup 1. So when it enters, you can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If you put it on another creature, that creature gains the rest of this card's abilities until the end of the turn. And the ability is when this creature dies, put its counters on target creature you control. So 1 mana, 1/2. When it dies, put its counter somewhere else. Or you can play it as a 0/1, put its counter somewhere else, and if that dies during the turn, you can transfer those counters presumably back to this or somewhere else.
I think in theory this is for like a heavy counters lane that you're trying to see. But even there, wouldn't you rather just have Momo? Like, wouldn't you rather just have 1-drops that wear counters well as opposed to this? Like, I think the argument for this is pretty poor.
Yeah, I mean, because like if you put this on something else, on the turn you play it, then there's no counter to move around, like, which is fine. Like I guess it's ultimately the same deal, right? The one counter is going wherever, but it just this is low.
Play honor.
This is sauceless.
Play honor.
Yeah.
Honors.
Do these abilities ever work? They run this back a lot with the when this thing dies, put its counter somewhere else.
This was solid in Mom. It wasn't amazing, but I think it was like a CC plus level card. It's like if you're trying to play in retail, especially an aggro deck that's playing as many cheap cards as possible, this does a thing. Wears equipment after you've put the counter somewhere. It's like it's a fine card. It's just that the Q power level, I just don't really see the argument for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I like it in D. Not super exciting. We've got Traveling Minister next. There's a much worse version of this in the current retail set.
1/2 in the current set, though. But yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
this card was a heater in its limited format.
Yep.
It was like a sleeper for a week until Podcaster said it wasn't a sleeper anymore.
Yeah.
Traveling Minister is white for a 1/1 human cleric. You can tap it. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. You gain a life, and you can only do that as a sorcery.
If we get more Valiant support down the road, I actually think this card has some amount of legs. I don't think we would ever run it, but in like this hypothetical space where you've got a bunch of cards that can trigger off of this targeting it, I think there's something here. It also obviously can support your Johnny's Pride mate if that's what you want.
Yeah, we're gonna really need a tip-tappy lane of some kind for this to matter, and yes, probably a life gain synergy lane of some kind. So I don't know. I'm okay to say like D+, but even if with Captain America, it's like, do you still care about this at all? It's like, assume you have Captain America in your deck. Would you willingly play this over anything in like B tier or above? Definitely not. And then maybe a couple cards in C tier, but even there, I think it's pretty weak. 1/1s for one, they just need a lot of help in my mind. And I don't think this gets there. I'll say D+. I'm okay saying D+. I think it's like, there's something here, but yeah.
Yeah, this card was good. This is one of those cases where I think you were mentioning earlier, Dan, about like when a card is really good in retail limited, keeping an eye on it. And I think I agree. I don't think this card makes necessarily the jump to cube very well, but I do think this card was good enough in the retail set that I'm willing to say there's something here because in the right format, it's clearly very powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Indebted. What is it? Spirit. Surprise, surprise. I was very high on this card coming out of MH3, and I think it underperformed my expectations quite a bit. It is white for a 1/1 enchantment creature spirit. It has Afterlife 1, so when the permanent dies, you get a 1/1 flying spirit. And it also has Bestow for 2 and a white, so you can cast it as an aura and attach it to something else, and that creature essentially gets all the other abilities. The enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has Afterlife 1. So on its own, if you don't bestow it, it's a Doom Traveler, essentially. It's an enchantment creature. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that dies and makes a 1/1 flyer. If you do bestow it, then the creature it's on is bigger, and then also dies into a 1/1, which would also leave the spirit behind when that creature dies, which could then die into another 1/1.
Basically, Lingering Souls. This is basically just Lingering Souls. Yeah,
just Lingering Souls.
I do think this was a really cool, like modern reinterpretation of like the haunt mechanic, which I think is what this card is based off of. I mean, like obviously it's the Theros, stuff, the bestow, but it feels very haunt adjacent in like trying to make that work in a modern templating because they would never reprint haunt. That being said, this card is most of the time just Doom Traveler, which is not very good, and like the bestow doesn't come up very often. I mean, it is like hypothetically pretty good. You can target things for like heroic and valiant. It makes a potentially large number of game objects. It's an enchantment for like our optimistic scavenger. So I think this card at some point could be like playable, but I think it's mostly off the fact that it is an enchantment that can target things.
Yeah, I still read this card and it's like there's so many words. It's got to be good.
Right.
But,
yeah, it should be good.
I want to try this in our theoretical heroic enchantment matters cube that we're gonna build. But I played this for a while and it was just Doom Traveler, and Doom Traveler is not good enough for our power level. So I think it's like a C-, D+. There's something here, but I don't know.
I think like my personal play patterns, I would say it played out like a D, but I think there's enough words on the card that I'm willing to bump it up into the bottom of the C.
Yeah.
It's a lot of material.
It's Lingering Souls. It's 3 mana to make 1 body and 2 more bodies. Like, come on.
Yeah. I like the card a lot, but I got baited by it a little bit. It read way better, I think, than actually played out. Soul Warden. Is this available to us as a common?
Ooh, maybe I thought it was.
I know it's on a special guest, so I know it's like
I'll check.
Technically mythic, but maybe it's in some other product. I'll read the card anyway, regardless. We can evaluate it whether it's craftable or not. It's white for a 1/1 human cleric. Whenever any creature enters the battlefield, except for itself, you gain a life. So this is I think along with the other version, one of the only ones that counts your opponent's creatures.
And it is available on Arena.
Okay.
Sure. The output of life here is actually pretty substantial. If your opponent is playing any sort of like white mid-range, go wide tokensy deck, especially if your opponent is playing like a heroic reinforcements deck, there's an argument that this card makes the game kind of unwinnable for them, in a lot of ways. But that being said, it's a 1-mana 1/1 that is like highly conditional on your opponent also being like a go wide aggressive deck.
It's true because the green version of this, I've been really impressed with. The Emissary, Virulent Emissary, that has Death Touch though, so it actually gets to trade like with your opponent's thing. So I think that from like a cube equity perspective, you have to be playing this in like an Ajani's Pride Mate, Tigra sort of a lane, and we all should know by now how much we hate that lane in general. So I think the card is very powerful. I play with it in multiple commander decks. I'll even play with it in commander decks that don't really have any kind of life gain synergies because I just like spotting myself 20 extra life at the start of the game. So
I play this in my Raft deck so that if I draw it on turn 1, I gain 20 life.
It's a powerful card, but I think the cube equity argument is pretty poor.
Yeah.
I'd say, again, like I would be fine calling it like a C minus, because if you're doing a life gain deck, I think this is like the card, that makes that at least kind of interesting to me. But I don't want to
Yeah.
play with it.
Are we in life gain territory now? Is that?
Yeah, I think this
Life
one's
gain
output
kind of.
is really high though. So like this is like
Yeah,
for
there's a
me
lot
it's
of output here.
bottom of the barrel or bottom of C. I mean, but it is a good enabler.
Sure, it's a fine enabler. I think I would take almost any of the other Soul Wardens that have some sort of
Like this
upside over caring
Speaking
about,
of.
caring about my opponent or gaining life for my opponent's creatures too. But Lunarch Veteran, this is white for a 1/1 human cleric. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain a life, and it has Disturb for 1 and a white, which brings it back as a 1/1 flyer, not on screen here. And that when that thing dies, it just exiles anytime it leaves the battlefield.
And whenever a creature leaves the battlefield, you gain a life. Is what that
Yeah. So
means.
it reverses the.
My bad. I didn't have double-sided cards enabled for this
Yep,
website.
this is kind of like a half the Lingering Souls that gains you a bunch of life.
Yeah,
I don't mind
I
this
still
guy.
like this card a fair amount.
Yeah.
To me, this compares very nicely with Virulent Emissary. It's a very similar card. Gives you some value in addition to just giving you the little life gain buff. Was very good in its retail format. I think I don't know that I would get it up to B level, but like C plus, I think is pretty reasonable for it.
Yeah,
I don't see B here.
I don't think it's quite at a B anymore. But this card was, I mean, it's rock solid. Like every part of the card matters to some degree.
Yeah, I like C range for this.
Sounds good.
Better. I like it more than Soul Warden.
Yeah, I agree.
Even. Chaplain of Alms from the same set. This is white for a 1/1 human cleric with first strike and ward 1, and the disturb cost on this one is 3 and a white. It comes back at I don't think I read disturb, but you can cast it from your graveyard for its disturb cost. You basically get that as a one shot because disturb cards always exile themselves when they leave the battlefield from their back half. The back half is Chapel Shieldgeist, which is a 2/1 with flying, first strike, and each creature you control has ward 1. And then if it would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, you exile it instead.
To me, this is only relevant in like a graveyard synergy style lane, and we've talked, Midnight Hunt, Vow, that kind of block did have a kind of a graveyard matters, disturb matters thing for white, and so there's a few of these cards that got printed. But we already talked about the Ocean Dissident and a couple others where it's like you really got to care about the graveyard to a degree, and I just don't see that for white right now in Peasant. And maybe we'll get there. We need a powerful set to come out where white is doing graveyard stuff, but at the moment I just don't really see it. So this is like a D for me. And even then it's like Disturb 4, it's a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm still not sure that I would love the card. So I think it's just kind of like a straight down to the middle D.
You're not getting away with anything, even if you do just dump this and pay, turn 4 to put a 2/1 flyer into play. Ward 1 is something.
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but
Well, it doesn't really matter if it gets cleaned up by Fire Magic
That
or
too,
Iris.
yeah. That's also true.
D for disturb. This card's not real, so we skip over. Wolf Cove Villager. This is white for a 2/2 human peasant, and it enters tapped. So
Hey, we
this
got
is a
Itamaru. Let's go.
jumpstart card.
There's also a
Dire
reprint of this
Grapple
in the new
white
set that is legendary.
All right,
Whiplash.
Tim, break out the Sharpie.
This creature enters.
I'll say there's some people who like this card. Like I've talked in the Peasant Discord we're in. I've talked to some folks, and there's some people who like this stuff a lot. I just think that it's entirely sauceless. Like I just, how much are you really getting for a 2/2 as opposed to a 2/1? And there's so many 2/1s we talked about that have other relevant abilities on them. So you're giving up that relevant ability just for 1 point of toughness, and it's like a much worse top deck. The fact that it can't actually be cast as a blocker. So this to me is just like D minus. I don't care about this at all. But I know that there's a number of people who like it, who've played with it and are happy with it. So I got more power to you. But this is not a card that I'm interested.
We got this card in black like a decade ago.
Yeah, it's just not for me.
Yeah, it's vanilla. I don't know. I don't like my vanillas very much in Peasant Cube.
Last card.
Curious Farm Animals. Seeing a standard sideboard mainstay. Curious Farm Animals, by the way. White for a 1/1 boar, elk, bird, ox. When it dies, gain 3 life, and you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice it and destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. This sees play in standard sideboard specifically as a Starfield Shepherd target. which I imagine is probably the only reason you're doing that in cube as well. Which to me doesn't seem terrible if I can guarantee I never draw this card and can always Starfield Shepherd for it if I need to.
Yeah,
That's my
this
thoughts on
is
the curious farm animals here.
it's a rough sell.
My problem with the card is it's just a sideboard only card, and I really don't love playing cards that are just never going to make your main deck. I just can't imagine a world where this makes your main deck. So I think D for me personally.
Yeah. All right. I think pretty obvious S's, some pretty good A's to follow that up. And then B is like kind of some decent aggressive creatures. Everything below that's starting to get into pretty niche territory or just outclassed by the stuff above it. A lot of redundancy in one drops. I think that's going to be the case. You're not going to get as many unique, one-off type effects that you wouldn't see anywhere else. You're going to see iterations of the same kind of template, the 1/1 flyer with a different kind of upside, the Savannah lines with a different kind of upside. So a lot of redundancy across the board here.
Yeah, and some cards that we didn't talk about because for me they just are too similar to other things we mentioned. City Pigeon, Doom Traveler we already mentioned. Aunt May, Flourishing Fox, Healer's Hawk. There's a number of cards on this list. Star Pupil, a lot of cards that other people still are playing and actually playing in multiple copies. So cards that usually I would have thrown on these lists, but they just seem to me like clearly worse options than things that we already talked about here. So for me, I would really focus on this SAB level. I think this is where most of the interesting stuff is right now for Peasant ones. And then there's a few cards here like Top of C especially that I think are pretty reasonable to run. But a lot of cards in D that people are playing with that I definitely would not suggest. But again,
I would say I would be feeling okay about seeing anything in a cube up to about like between Thunderbolt Ross and Usher of the Fallen is kind of my mental cutoff where I'd be like, why are we playing things below this? I feel like we need a pretty good justification.
Yeah, agreed.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't see anything above like Usher of the Fallen that I'm like, that'd be really weird to see in a cube. These all seem defensible. Obviously, like Optimistic Scavenger is there for synergy reasons, based on what our C is. But I have a little bit of a mental gripe there with Seasoned Warren Guard being in C, but
I don't think it's that bad. But yeah,
it's pretty horrendous. It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
I think it's okay.
But it attacks for 3 damage, so like
Win at
surely
3-2, guys.
I'm
Win at 3-2. Can't be that bad.
Yeah, that'd be sick. We were supposed to get that with a Ether Drift.
Soon
right?
enough, we're gonna have it. My cube is gonna be every 2 drop of my cube is gonna be Living Weapon, and this card's gonna be like a tier card. So we'll get there soon.
Okay, so moral of the story here: the aggressive stuff. I guess White's pretty good at aggressive stuff.
Yeah, White has the best ones, almost certainly on the client, or in Peasant period. I think currently.
I think there's like there's going to be other colors that have like 1 or 2 1-drops that are competitive with these white ones, but I think that the depth here in white ones is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, white is the color. I think that we said this earlier. Whether you think it's Savannah lines or not, white just kind of wants a dude on, like whatever you can put on board. It wants something on turn 1.
I think this continues to show why white is so strong in Peasant at the moment. Is that white's cheap board impacting cards, like the creature adjacent cards, are just the best. It's got the most of them. They're the highest quality, and it allows white to, in so many games, even if you're playing a very mid-rangey, grindy white deck where you've got the ability to go long, you have these draws where you're just like, all right, well, here's like a Mandibular Kite into a Dragoon's Lance into a hop to it. I'm going to attack you for a bunch of damage.
Red might be the only color that can compete with white at the moment in terms of creature quality, but yeah, white is definitely on top. And I think you really want to be starting your white games on turn 1. That to me is like, for me, I want a fat 1 section in white. Its ones are justifiable. They do powerful things. They can get played in mid-range decks, even grindy mid-range decks. I really want to be starting my white games on turn 1 with all these cards in BA and S. Personally, though, I know that's for Tim. He's just cringing really hard right now. He wants to start the game on turn 6, and I understand. But for me,
both players are required to play gain lands for 5 turns.
I just want to. I like these decks existing, but my whole play style is be in decks like this instead of be in decks like this.
Well, I play pretty much in the mid-range decks I like to play. I'll play pretty much everything Runelurker, Bat, and above. I will play pretty happily in those decks. And they're not necessarily, I don't really play a lot of like traditional aggro decks too often. I usually am playing a slightly slower deck that can go a little bigger. And I think these cards are all just really good at what they do.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that wraps up our first 1-drop creature tier list. We will be doing the rest probably, I imagine, in Wooburg order. And then beyond that, we'll talk about what to do. If we're gonna do fours or fives, still open to other people's feedback on that. We've already gotten some comments, so thanks to the people who have told us what they're thinking of the other mana value creatures. But there's certainly other things we could be tier listing as well. To wrap things up here, just want to remind people to find Jank Diver Gaming in the Discord, link down below, and find a link to Danelius Peasant All Star Cube Cobra link. We also draft that cube sometime. We draft both of the cubes that we're talking about here in the Jank Diver Gaming server, so you can come get in on some actual cube drafts playing with these cards. If you have thoughts or feelings about anything we've listed here, or maybe anything we've left off, let us know. And again, thanks to everybody who voted for us to get into KubeCon, and hopefully, maybe we even see some people there. That'd be awesome. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Tell Danelius, thanks for hanging out. Let us know what you think of the new presentation here, or any tweaks you would like to see to it. And yeah, we'll be back with some more guild tier lists and some more one drops, probably in blue. So that's going to go and do it for this one. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.
See ya.